the dragon's mouth in his thing. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes, and we're live.
Oh, okay.
Gentlemen, hello.
You still have the ability to go live. That's nice.
Yes. Oh, yeah, you guys got fucked. Who'd you get fucked by? Mr. Rogers fucked you?
Yeah, Mr. Rogers. It's funny. The people who go after the Bob Ross estate and
Every
now
woman
Mr. Rogers.
over the age of 90's dream.
Yeah.
But this is what's
Screw Mr. Rogers.
confusing. Most of what you guys do in terms of like the Bob Ross thing in particular, first of all, that took a lot of balls. Because this is, you had Bob Ross painting Muhammad. Which is
in Period Blood, the second one, because the BuzzFeed women were doing the painting. It was YouTube. This was actually after a meeting with YouTube. Remember,
Never
I
ask
said
him how you can top something because we'll
pull the
Period
sucker
Blood.
right up to you. There you go.
Yeah, yeah.
It's almost like
you should know. You're in SM7 in our
I
studio.
know.
But yeah, we were
So
at the
the
YouTube.
Bob Ross estate got after you, but that's parody. How can they mock you, or how can they get you in trouble for mocking something or doing parody?
Here's why. You have a system with YouTube, right, where they just strike. They just strike you, and you lose your privileges whether you win or not. We've never lost. So the Bob Ross estate sent us a message, right, and it was saying, like, first off, have you no decency? You know, this isn't in accordance with Islamic law. We're sort of, like, laughing our asses
accordance
off.
with Islam, like you're supposed to be in accordance with Islamic law when you're doing
They
parody.
thought that we didn't know that it was offensive.
Yeah, they thought we didn't know.
Like
we stumbled across this. And so then
that's hilarious.
we responded to the lawyers as Bob Ross. Well, let's welcome back to the Joy of Painting. We're going to draw our lawyer friends eating from a nice big pile of shit. And we painted them eating from a pile of corn-infested shit. And then at the end of the video, we're like, it looks like they need a friend, and put Muhammad right next to them in the pile. And it hangs above our bathroom. And we never heard from them again. They sent us cease and desists, and we ran it past our
We
lawyers.
think the shock may have killed them.
Yeah. So we don't, and now we have Mr. Rogers.
Now, what is Mr. Rogers mad about?
We did a parody. We did a few parodies of, Won't You Be My Neighbor intros. That was it.
Like a year ago.
But again, how could someone put a strike on you for a parody? I mean, I thought that is protected.
Well, you get into the realm of parody and satire,
Yes.
and but even then, it depends on who looks at it. That's the problem with
Right.
YouTube, right? Just someone last time we got our privileges back. This time
Pretty
we
quickly.
didn't. We're like, listen, we've never lost a case. We've counterfiled. We've always won. This is clearly parody. The Mr. Rogers was actually your brother
we
doing
made
it
the
on
track from scratch,
keyboard.
so we didn't even borrow any of like their logos, their nothing. 100%
Right.
original.
Yeah.
No, here's what's fucked up. You were telling me about a meeting that you guys had when you went to New York for YouTube.
Yeah.
And they were comparing like what is demonetized and what's not demonetized, and they had something. Would you just explain what happened?
We don't exactly know because it's boilerplate answers, right?
Right.
We get brought out. A bunch of conservatives get brought out to New York.
Who was with you?
Well, us, the
PragerU
Daily Wire
guys.
people, the PragerU, who were really cool, Ben Shapiro's guys, those guys
Several
there at Forward
think
Publishing,
tanks.
and then a bunch of
Mostly
think tanks.
mostly.
And everyone sat there and played nice, and they bring out this whole spread. They bring you into the Google offices.
Give you a tour of the place.
They give you a tour.
This is in New York?
This is in New York.
Do they fly you out, or they ask you to fly
No,
out?
they fly out. They pay for the whole thing.
They pay for the whole thing.
Put you up.
Yeah.
How long ago is this?
Summer.
Was it summer?
Yeah, I think it was
So
summer.
I don't know.
6 months
Our
ago?
half-Asian lawyer, Bill, came with us, and they didn't know. We just were like, he's our producer. So he came out and we were just sitting
Sat
down
there right next to us, the whole thing.
Voted like #1 lawyer in the state, and hilarious, really funny guy. So we go out there, and we're just sitting there kind of listening, and they're just saying nothing. And finally I said, well, what's happening with demonetization? What's happening with, obviously we're all conservatives here. We've had our videos put in restricted mode. What are the guidelines? We don't know. And they're like, well, that's a very good question. And they looked to the back
As
of
if
the room.
that
Like,
wasn't
we'll be
the
talking about
obvious
that later in the day.
Elephant in the room, as if it wasn't obvious. That's
Right.
that's why everyone's there.
Oh, and that's what happened. That was the period blood. They're
yeah.
like, well, things that are hate speech, things that could be offensive, things like current events that could be controversial, and so everyone's
That's
sitting
life.
there. Yeah, but I said, what about BuzzFeed women painting in period blood in the trending feed? Painting in
last week.
in viscousy, chunky period blood on the home feed that's on YouTube trending. What about that? Is that considered like child friendly? And conservatives were in there looking back. I was like, like we were ruining the movie. I'm saying like.
Yeah.
Why are we here? That's a big
Right.
problem. People don't say anything.
Well, that is a very valid discussion. That's valid. Like, what if you can't? I mean, if you can paint in period blood, and I don't think you should be restricted. I think if you want to paint in period blood, as long as I know what you're doing, it says painting in period blood. Well, I'm going to avoid
They were
that
proud of
one.
the title. It was in the title.
Don't put that in my
I might-
suggested feed.
Well, I might actually watch it, but here's the thing.
Not these women.
I might just for the
This is
hell
the
of it.
Boldly channel.
But the point is, like, I
Boldly.
don't want to take that right away from them. But I'm confused by what is okay, what's not okay. you can't. They embolden the right if you silence them. You embolden the left if you silence them. You embolden people when you say you give them power. You make the whole thing bigger than it has to be.
Yeah.
People are allowed to have differences of opinions and they're allowed to have different ideologies. But when you have a platform where you radically restrict one ideology and you openly support another one, you're picking a side.
Well,
and
it's kind of like Dinesh D'Souza talks about. It's not about the laws. Is it applied equally?
Right.
Well, YouTube doesn't even respect the laws. Here's something that can happen with YouTube. Just to give you an example. People out there, a lot of people don't know this. So there's, single-party consent state, two-party consent state. California is one of the few states where both people have to know they're on camera. Now, even sometimes in a two-party consent state, there's no reasonable expectation of privacy if you're at a public event, right? If you're at a public protest, you can't say, hey, you can't take my picture. You're there publicly protesting.
Right.
So these are legal layers, right? We had someone in a single-party consent state in Michigan on camera at a public protest, sign a release to give an interview, and then complain to YouTube and said, I don't want to be on that video. And it didn't matter that we presented the law, the paperwork to YouTube. It was taken down. We had to blur the face.
But
They didn't look bad.
Was it under false pretenses? Like, did they think that you were doing one thing and then you were really doing something else?
No, the crazy thing is this actually was a guy
who agreed with us on almost everything.
Yeah, he was talking about divestment. And he was
Maybe
really
that's
smart.
what he was pissed about.
Well, you know what? He probably just got a lot of feedback and was like, well, this is freaking me out. I want to get out of this.
Yeah, but as a content creator, you can't be like, well, sorry you didn't like it.
Right.
Yeah, we don't. I mean,
right, but you can understand like his perspective, like him trying to get it taken down. If you're a general public person and you don't know what the fuck you're doing, you say something, you don't
He pulled Elena Dunham. He realized later he was raped. It was much later. He was retroactively taken down.
Pulled Elena Dunham. Now,
I feel like every
what
time
did
we come
they
on here, we talk
say
about her.
when you pointed out the whole period blood thing, painting in period blood? What?
Dead silence.
No one said anything. They didn't respond to you?
Like that's a good, and then later that's a good question. We'll get to that later in the day. So later in the day was when they came out with this next gen news, and we were just like, it got to a point where
Next gen
and I were
news.
just pissing ourselves.
So
laughing.
explain this because you explained it to me earlier.
Well, I was like, the problem is, Ryan, I have to be careful because otherwise they'll take it out of context. So then this is the news portion of the day. This whole YouTube conference, bringing out conservatives and the salmon pâté plate, which I don't think there's anything grosser. He was eating pasted fish in the car on the way here.
It was quick and delicious.
So I think it was Next Gen News or Evolution.
I always get it wrong. Whatever I think it is the opposite. So I think it's next gen. We'll go next
Our
gen.
lawyers would completely advocate against what we're doing. We're giving such specificity. So this is the exact channel. It's like hip hop and sneakers, like a sneaker hall with whatever, the guy from the show Blackish, Anthony, whatever, that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of hip hop news. They come out to teach us how to do news. And they go, so before we show, so-and-so from Next Gen News, the sizzle reel. And every other word is the N-word, MFer, and you could see them looking back and they turn it down. Because this is what the whole channel is.
They didn't screen that.
No, they didn't screen it. And she comes out and she's talking about news and how to create content and the algorithms.
And knowing your audience.
Yeah, knowing your audience.
She is the content creator? She's like the person
she's one of the
on
founders
YouTube?
of it, I guess.
Oh, okay. And
I mean,
so
creating
she's
content.
explaining.
If you're filming someone going like, I like these sneakers. I mean, I don't know what content it is, but and then I just said, yeah, at this point, they've been saying we're going to get to news all day. This is the first time someone's come out. I said, yeah, question. We just heard about the new guidelines and how it's supposed to be advertiser friendly. It's supposed to be family friendly. Considering that you deal with hip hop and a lot of pretty adult, pretty profane content, have you been hit by, at the time it was called the adpocalypse? I said, have you been hit by this? And she said, no, not at all. I said, okay, no further questions.
That's amazing. So all of that stuff's fine.
It's fine. It's about the wrong opinion.
Right.
That's really what it comes down to.
But is it fine because they're black?
She wasn't black.
She wasn't black.
No, she wasn't black.
She was a white girl.
I think she was black.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's
I don't see
like
color, Joe.
me saying that I'm Irish because I'm one quarter. I've been talking about this. Like, I am more Irish than a lot of people that call themselves black. I'm one quarter Irish, 3/4 Italian. But if you look at me, I look mostly Italian. But if I said I'm an Irishman, people would be like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Are you really?
She was like Abercrombie and Fitch black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Abercrombie and Fitch black.
Yeah. She's generically ethnic.
Okay.
Like if it were a guy, you'd have no problems with him dating your daughter if you were kind of a racist.
They knew
like,
they knew the eyes was pretty
I'll
high. They
let
don't
it
want
slide.
to intimidate everybody.
But if she went to like a really fucking heavy duty hip hop place and started throwing that word around, they would look at her like, hey, is she even allowed? Are you allowed to say that? Can you go blurting out the N word when you're that white?
I didn't know that she could do it with her sizzle reel.
Well, that seems like a bit of a problem, right? That's like one of those weird double standard rules in terms of like the language. Like if you are in that community, you're allowed to use what is otherwise extremely offensive language.
Yeah, sure. It's like you have to have a hood pass to use it, but
Yeah.
you need like the platinum version
Yeah.
to really go all the way.
You need your hood
to really
pass
get away with
black.
it.
But especially on YouTube. I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with using that language. I had a conversation, I told you about this, that I had a conversation with this woman from YouTube, and one of the things that we were talking about was demonetization, and we were talking about like why things get flagged, and I was talking about a conversation that got flagged on some. Jamie, what is it called when someone recommends something and they have it in their feed, like their preferred playlist, like a regular person, not a content creator, but if they have it on their, you know how you could do that, you can have it in your channel, like you could.
I think it's just like suggested playlists. It's their algorithms.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? You would call it but not their algorithms. Like you would pick it. Like say if I watched one of your the video on Bob Ross and I liked it.
Put it in your queue, that kind of thing.
Is that what it is?
Oh, the queue. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So this guy got.
Gosh, I feel
flagged.
really stupid right now. Like none of us just got that one syllable.
We're
word.
all on YouTube too, by the way, you stupid asses. But so this guy got flagged, and it was just a conversation between Sam Harris and some other guy. I forget who he was. It was an intellectual. And it was about left-wing culture, and it was about left-wing radical, ideology, and they were criticizing it. And this got his channel flagged. And I was like, well, how is this possible? And she's like, well, he's advocating that people watch this, and it must promote hate speech. I'm like, I fucking guarantee you that doesn't promote hate speech.
Right.
Did you guys even watch it, or does somebody else complain about it and flag it? And then I brought up Jordan Peterson, who, by the way, was just here, just left.
Yeah, he's going to be on our show there next week too.
Smell of Canada. Still in the room.
You smell maple syrup.
Lingers.
And she said, like, he's a problem. He's a bit of a problem. He's a troublemaker. I'm like, he's a troublemaker. Like, what? Because he has his own opinions on things. Like, what is going on? Like, are you guys promoting a very specific ideology, and anyone who differs from that is hate speech? Because we're getting crazy if that's the case.
I think a lot of them don't know.
Here it is.
Oh, is this it?
Yeah, Douglas Murray.
Hey, look,
Okay.
I can see it over there now.
Community guidelines strike for just listening to an honest intellectual conversation between Sam Harris and Douglas Murray. Who's the guy who got it taken down? Yeah, the man's PTRKCCX.
He's very bold.
Yeah, so this is a
Likes his
community
cats.
guideline strike. By the way, I listened to that conversation between Sam Harris and Douglas. There's nothing offensive about it. It's just they're discussing things.
Well, here's the thing: is now we've scaled it backwards. Like, there's nothing. Even if there were
See if
something
you can
offensive
find
about
the
it,
actual video, what that is, and find out what the title of it is, and if maybe there's some sort of a description. Does it say?
This thing here is the title.
What does it say there?
Just
Just says Sam Harris and Douglas Murray? Yeah. I forget who Douglas Murray is, but click on him. See if you can click on him.
Author, strange.
The author of The Strange Death of Europe. Okay, Immigration, Identity, Islam. That's what it is.
Oh,
So Douglas
yeah.
Murray he is critical of the open border policy that you're seeing become very problematic in some parts of Europe. And by the way,
which is funny because Sam
Yeah.
Harris is against the wall.
Yeah.
Against Donald Trump's
Yeah.
wall. So it's like that's just two people probably with differing opinions on that issue to some degree.
well, Sam Harris is a pretty noted critic of Islam, but I think
But the immigration thing
Right.
here, he's more
Yes.
open borders in the States than a guy like that, probably.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think what he's essentially saying is they're talking about the very real issues that they're dealing with in Europe and in
sucks.
YouTube's eyes. Yeah. I mean, we played a video the other day of Paris, of some parts of Paris that immigrants have moved into and just fucking
yeah.
completely wrecked. I mean, I'm not anti-immigration. My grandparents were immigrants, but I'm just saying that there's a real issue. And this guy, Douglas Murray, was discussing this real issue with Sam Harris. That got flagged, and it got labeled as hate speech. Like,
Well, I had a
fucking crazy, man. It's weird.
I had a friend, Lee Doran. So he's graduated like a University of Michigan law, really just a brilliant guy. He's like a Shapiro kind of guy. And he was one of the early YouTubers, early adopters, first other conservative on YouTube, very analytical, very, very dry, very smart. And he did a video that was just called something like "The Japanese Were Not the Victims in World War II," and it was a video about the atrocities I think the Japanese committed against the Chinese. That's
Right.
all it was.
Like the rape of Nanking.
But he didn't get super graphic. But he was basically talking about like people just look back and they look at Hiroshima, but let's actually look at the aspirations of the Japanese Empire. Historical, it was removed as hate speech. And here's the thing, he came to me, and because we had those contacts directly at YouTube, they immediately apologized and fixed it. But what worries me is, well, what if you don't have 1 million plus subscribers?
Right.
You know, what if I weren't there for him? And that's the one thing that I always get worried about with comedy and with a lot of entertainers is they kind of pave a path, and sometimes you see these guys like close the door behind them. Like, well, it was okay for me to say it, but now that's really, I've learned better. We shouldn't
evolved.
say it. And it's like, well, hold on a second. We're in the boat where you were, you know?
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of famine thinking going on in that regard where people automatically want to protect what they have and get nervous about it, and they forget what got them there in the first place.
Right.
What makes any of us popular is the ability to express yourself online in a way that resonates with other people that are listening. Now, as soon as you restrict that, as soon as you change that and say, well, you know, I just want to do real good and I'm making a lot of money now, I'm going to change who I am. You're fucked. You're fucked. You're just fucked.
I would take it a step further and say authenticity. I
Yes.
think people like you because you're authentic.
Yeah.
I think we're pretty authentic with what we do with the show. I mean, we're pretty straightforward. People come up and they meet us at shows, and they're like, "Wow, it feels like you're on your show."
Right.
You can't be authentic and play by YouTube's rules unless you completely agree with them. So
You have to agree with them. You have to be authentically willing to
That's
abide
it.
by their rules.
That's exactly. So that's the whole thing. There's no authenticity. It's like, regardless of the rules that they claim, which are so ambiguous, in practice, there's no way to make it work.
Well, I think this is indicative of the ideology that radiates throughout Silicon Valley, which is radical left, progressive, neo-Marxist sort of ideology. And there's so much of that going on throughout Silicon Valley, so much in the tech community, so much uber progressive thinking. Which, you know, look, I think all of it comes from the right place. I think they all want no racism, you know, they want no hate speech. They all want wonderful things. But you can't just decide arbitrarily what is and isn't based on your perspective. You have to look at it. You have to look at it honestly.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think they're doing that. I think when you look at that Douglas Murray, Sam Harris thing, and the guy getting a community strike for just liking it. I mean, this is crazy.
They take an authoritarian approach to solving the whole thing, which and then refuse to accept the results, which is the Donald Trump presidency and the things they've created. So,
well, in their defense, one of the things that they did say to me, that the problem they're dealing with, YouTube people, the problem what they're dealing with is blunt tools. They're saying these tools that demonetize things, they're not good yet. And she said within the next 6 to 8 months, they're going to get better.
Bullshit.
And they're working on them. I don't know.
Hold on a second.
But let me just express her perspective.
Yes.
She was saying that they have made significant strides since they first started doing it, and they're getting better at it. They're getting better at isolating. And one of the things we discussed is those fucking creepy cartoons. You know, I'm sure you've seen those.
Oh, yeah, the child molestation stuff.
Well, the violent stuff. A lot of it, like babies getting hit in the head by bottles. Have you seen those?
Yeah, those things have been up for years.
God, no, I watch good things.
But you know what we're talking
nice
about.
things.
You know what we're talking about.
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, it's a weird thing where these things get put on a kid's playlist. You know, it's like Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse getting drunk, and then like someone throws a bottle up in the air and it hits a baby in the head, and there's blood everywhere. And these same patterns are repeated over and over again in hundreds of these videos, maybe thousands. A lot of them have been removed from YouTube, right? They've been pretty proactive about
Sounds like Quentin Tarantino making cartoons.
Dude, it's fucked up. See if you can find them. See if you can find one.
I was
This
gonna
is
say,
the
I found,
Eli Roth playlist.
I found a weirder playlist of like this guy dissecting candy and making weird voices over it, and then there was a whole list of videos of people saying like, what the fuck is this channel, what's going on here? And it just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I don't think anything's it's just weird shit.
Is this related to the YouTube Kids thing? Is it different than the YouTube Kids thing?
No, I think he's talking about the YouTube Kids thing.
Yeah, the kid thing though is more fucked up because it's always the same pattern. It's like these kids get together with a parent, the parents give the kids booze, the kids get drunk, they throw bottles, the baby gets hit in the head with a bottle, there's blood everywhere. It's like the same thing over and over and over again. There's been all these videos exposing these videos, like people that are analyzing it saying, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
And it seems to be foreign. They seem to be done in other countries, and essentially what they're doing is they're tapping into this. They have a pattern that they use. They're tapping into whatever algorithm that creates your coming up next feed.
Suggested
Yes.
videos.
So a little kid could be watching like a real Donald Duck cartoon, and then it leads into this.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what anyone's really complaining about. I think we can all find common ground, like, let's get rid of the Minnie Mouse being raped on YouTube, you know?
Yeah.
But the problem is, I understand her perspective, and that's what they told us too almost a year ago. But I even asked them, I said, hold on a second. you just wine and dine us, and you showed us your whole virtual reality set. No, yeah. And we're the most advanced. That's why YouTube wants to be at the forefront of policy. They're really aggressively on this net neutrality thing, everything. Google, really big policy wonks, really big lobbyists if you look at them. But they go, so, okay, you're super advanced, most technologically advanced company in the world. But our channel...
This is a real-life one. There's kind of the same kind of shit, but these aren't as offensive to me as the cartoon ones.
This gets real. It's like a 15-minute weird video, just weird stuff happening. Like, kids are supposed to watch this, they stumble across it because the algorithm, if they're watching a cartoon with Spider-Man in it, this shows up next.
Oh, does she get drunk and he rapes her or something?
I don't know. She's getting tied up a second ago.
That's a really shitty Spider-Man. I wouldn't be fooled.
Yeah, that wouldn't make it past our wardrobe.
Anyway.
All right. But the point is, you can't claim you're the most advanced, tech company in the world, and then on our channel, you're getting ads for Muslim singles and gay cruises. It's like, hold on a second, your algorithm can't figure out. It is pretty funny. Like, don't get me wrong, but we're not getting any money from those ads. Like, you can't find. That means that if our videos are controversial, right? Our videos are not a violation of guidelines. There are sponsors out there. I mean, we see it with Walther, our firearm company came to sponsor. They seek us out because it's worth octuple to them because they want to reach our audience.
Right.
Whereas YouTube says, well, no, it's not advertiser friendly. No, it's not advertiser friendly for the people you have on there. It's not gay cruise advertiser friendly, but you're telling me you have the most advanced algorithms in the world and you're running ads for Young Turks on my video. Like, I don't
do they
buy
really?
It. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've seen a bunch of leftist ads on my channel.
They might do that on purpose.
It would
After
be hysterical.
Your Cenk impression,
yeah.
When you went to that one conference and you went as him,
yeah,
he just goes on. Oh,
that's very bad. It's very disappointing. I would have thought that was hilarious if I was him. I mean, first of all, it was disappointing there was only 20 people in there. I wouldn't have even gone. I'd have been like, look, let's take this to a smaller place because if a video gets out of this is fucking embarrassing. There's 20 people in this one room, and then you walked in as him.
I didn't want to do it.
Right.
Like, he had called me out. And we've had people even on this show.
Of course you wanted to do it. That's why you did it.
No, he knows I didn't want to do it. I was like, but I feel like I have to because he called me out and I said, I accept. Basically, like, okay, let's and then nothing.
He called you out how so?
He was constantly talking trash. I mean, Stephen Crowder, self-styled comedian. Oh, he sucks, bullshit, that whole thing. So it's like, okay, I responded. I'm like, let's hash this out. He will rebut every Tom, Dick, and Harry on YouTube, not named Stephen Crowder. So at this point, I was just trying to get an interview with him. We've had people on our show we disagree with. We do an hour-long change my mind where I sit down and listen to someone scream at me. I'm more than willing.
The video you did, though, where you drinking the bacon grease and you did
It was pretty mean.
You did him. No, it was funny. Come on, man. It's fucking funny. It made me laugh.
But the point is he forced my hand.
Right.
I had to do it. Like it's like that guy in Diner has to punch all the people who ganged up on a baseball diamond throughout I was like, well, now I have to do this with Cenk because there's no other recourse. And he kept going to the audience. The only reason we showed the audience.
It's like YouTube. There's no other recourse.
Yeah,
you have to go to Trainee Bane.
Right.
It has to escalate.
He goes, listen, you're dying. The audience doesn't like you. So it's like at this point, you brought up the audience. Let's do a pan. There's 20 people. Like, I don't want to go up and embarrass the guy, but he's just such an asshole. There's just no way around it. So we kind of retired that character.
That character was funny when you're drinking the bacon grease.
That's not true. We brought him back this week.
And I don't.
Oh, that's right.
I've had nothing but pleasant dealings with Cenk. Nothing but I don't have any hate for the guy.
Yeah.
But I laughed because
I had
a
wonderful handshake with him. It was a wonderful moment.
Was it?
Yeah, it was
great.
Feel
good?
Yeah.
I just think, like most people, they get embroiled in conflict and then they lose perspective and then it builds up and then it becomes something stupid. And I think, his thing with Alex Jones is handled very poorly when they start screaming at each other and Anna called him a fat fuck. I'm like, funny though. God damn, you can't do that. Like, this is against everything you guys stand for. You're calling him a fat fuck. You can't
You just body shamed him.
Meanwhile, Cenk's fatter. This is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, Cenk's put him on. I don't think he realizes that yet. I don't think he's at the point where he realizes that he's bigger than Alex.
Oh, really?
Maybe he's lying to himself. I don't know. I don't want to speculate on how he looks himself in the mirror and what he tells himself in the morning to get through the day.
Like I said, my dealings with Cenk have been nothing but pleasant. I like talking to him. I had him on the podcast. I like talking to him. I just think people lose their place. They lose their view of the world.
Well, I think when your identity is entirely tied up in the numbers, right? When it's entirely tied up, his only defense was, look at the audience. It's like, hold on a second, that ebbs and flows. I mean, you guys have obviously have a crazy successful show, but some shows are more popular than others.
Of course.
And for them, this far left sort of, I guess, progressive viewpoint, and they've gotten increasingly worse, is not popular. And when that's your only argument, when that's your whole identity,
it's a very short time between that and when the pendulum swings. Even when you debated Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, that was
the audience.
The year before was him and Dinesh D'Souza. And his whole argument was like, "You went to prison, Dinesh," and people were clapping for him. And then when he was sitting there with Ben, it didn't work.
Well, the Dinesh one, he had that ace in the hole. Like that card, like you went to prison, is a fucking tough card to get by.
It's pretty funny.
It is funny.
It's funny to picture Dinesh in prison. I'm friends with Dinesh, but it is funny, you know?
Well, I felt like the Sam Harris one was a big downfall for him.
Because of Ben Affleck and all that stuff.
Well, Sam just handled it better. You know, when they had that long 3-hour conversation. In a 3-hour conversation with someone, you know, it's hard to hide. It's like your ideas get exposed. Your lack of knowledge gets exposed.
Well, that's why the left doesn't do it. And I know people say, well, okay, we do a segment where the biggest success for us this year that we're really grateful for is the Change My Mind segment. And that's just where I literally sit down, we put up a booth that says, I'm pro-gun, change my mind, or I'm pro-life, change my mind, or there are only two genders.
That's your shirt?
Yeah,
I'm pro-gun, change my mind.
It's wildly unpopular here in LA.
Yeah, it's wildly unpopular here in LA.
Go in the wrong spots. I can tell you where to go.
Yeah. We had one that was like an hour-long thing on abortion. One that was an hour, just at SMU, 5 people just lined up, and I just listened to them. And out of the 5 people, 2 of them changed their mind, and then some of them we didn't find. It's completely unedited. And everyone, when I worked at Fox News, everyone in cable news would have told you this would not work, and no one's going to watch an hour-long discussion. Right. But there's no one on the left who does that.
Well, they can't do it in their format. They can't do it when they have an 8 to 10 slot or an 8 to 9 slot, and there's every 15 minutes you have to sandwich in a commercial, and then you have all these segments that you have to play. They can't do it. But that's just because their format sucks. Like it's an antiquated form of entertainment. It just doesn't work anymore.
But even the lefts on YouTube, like the Young Turks, they don't do that. The unedited, just long form
what
thing.
What other good left shows are there on YouTube? What are the like really popular ones?
I don't know. They're really. I mean,
well, Sam Cedar's show, right? The Majority Report.
Is he?
I fucked that up. I called it the Minority Report once.
That's easy. It's easy to do.
Yeah, they think I did it on purpose.
Were they mad?
I don't know.
They thought you were doing like the conservative talk show thing where you're like, no, the dums.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe.
Democrats.
I don't do that.
No,
but I think they also called me right wing too, which is like, all right. Like you pick up one of the things they were saying was that people just decide like that these people that we decide to help each other out, that the right supports themselves and they support like other right-wing people, but the left needs to figure out how to do that. I'm like, I'll fucking have anybody on. I have left-wing people on all the time. I have libertarians on all the time. I have people that are completely neutral to politics on all the time. I just think when you box yourself into these ideologies, when you're only pro-left and you can't see any perspective outside of that, it becomes an issue.
It's going to be an issue for you today after a double feature of Jordan Peterson and us. It's probably going to come fast.
I don't give a fuck. I really don't. I mean,
and Jordan Peterson.
I knew it when I was doing this. First of all, Jordan Peterson. You know, I'll have that guy on anytime. You know, he's one of my favorite people to talk to. Just a fascinating guy. But I knew, like, having you two back to back, it's like, oh, it's a fucking alt-right sandwich. Oh, look at Rogan. He's just embracing it. What are you, Nazi now? But
you're definitely on the Care watch list.
They're not
listening
to Peterson. The facets of all the variables.
What I wanted to talk to you guys about is some of my favorite stuff that you've done. And some of my favorite stuff that you've done is the undercover shit. And one of the things that I found the most disturbing was when you two posed as a gay couple and you went to that place where they were advocating transgender children and transitioning children as young as 3 years old. Right?
I don't know if it was 3 years old, but puberty blockers they were talking about.
Yeah, but I think it was really fucking young. No, you know what? Actually, 3 years old was Owen Benjamin got in an argument on Twitter and lost his manager because he was saying that someone is fucking insane for giving puberty blockers to a 3-year-old kid, for giving hormone blockers to a baby.
Yeah.
Which I am, fuck yeah, that's not even a strong enough word. That is insanity, fucking insanity. I mean, your body's not even developed. You're not even close. We're not talking about 18. We're not even talking about 21, which is arguable, still crazy. Like, you should probably wait until your fucking frontal cortex fully develops to figure out who you are. But the idea that you're going to know at 3 who you're going to be when you're 30.
Well, they present the other side.
Bananas.
They act as though you're crazy. That was what they were like, well, you know, the thing is with the puberty. Remember that person looked like Smee from Hook?
Well, let's play
Smee
it.
with Hook,
let's
but
play
like
some of it because it's It's fucking nuts. When I watched it, I was like, oh my God, like, what are these people saying? And
it's been taken down since you asked me about that, too.
Really?
Yeah, we have to blurt the guy. Well, I'm not afraid.
Who
Rex
took it down?
Butt. Rex Butt. Dr. Rex Butt, who shows up in Pride Parade. His name is Rex Butt.
That is hilarious.
Kid you not.
We're
business
not
card.
in a real world. We're in a goddamn simulation.
It was a town hall. This was a town hall.
We're in a simulation. This can't be real. A guy, his name is Rex Butt.
And he got YouTube
what do you
to
do
take
for
it
a
down.
living?
Yeah.
You know.
And YouTube acquiesced to Rex Butt.
Okay, let's play some of this, and if there's, for most of the people are listening rather than watching. So
NotGay Jared, do you know what this is? Because you gave him the.
No,
so hold on. Let's set
anymore.
this up.
Interns.
So what was this?
Okay. It was NotGay Jared and I. So here's the one. Can I preface this with something?
Yes.
We don't. Like, we're not undercover journalists. So
Right.
we do a late night show. That's what we do. We do the monologue, we do jokes, sketches, and we do interviews. And then every now and then we stumble across something. And when you're doing, for example, like Antifa, and they hand you a knife and they talk about shooting Ben Shapiro.
We'll talk about that too.
But the point is, and then when the media just lies about it, like, we feel compelled to. This isn't our thing.
Right.
It just is one of many
this particular one was kind of a throwaway.
It was a throw. We were joking. It was a goof. It was
we didn't even bother with costumes. We just walked in and said we're queer.
It was what the healthcare transgender town hall. We were like, oh my
It was
God.
a transgender town hall.
Transgender town hall.
Where was it at?
Vermont.
Vermont.
Yeah.
Burlington, Vermont.
Oh, that place is crazy.
Oh, I was on a plane with Bernie Sanders on the way there too. It was.
Give me your money. I'm gonna give it to the blacks. Okay.
Give money to the blacks. It's a human right.
Let's play.
All right. He's about 6 now. He has said that feels like a girl, prefers playing with dolls, and of course we don't want to discourage it. We spoke with our primary care physician. He said wait until the boy is fully developed.
We made all
That's
this
Rex
up.
Butt.
That's right.
Fully developed is a little vague.
That's me.
And I would say a little inaccurate from the research.
A little inaccurate from the research I've done.
It's too late.
The kid
18's too late.
desists, then it's just like, okay, get rid of the puberty blockers. They just go through late puberty.
That's
and
it.
Everything's still lined up. There's no indication there's any damage.
That's not true.
No, not at all.
Puberty blockers are not reversible. That's the entire point.
That's not the point.
The child,
It's the opposite.
The young someone at the pre-adolescent age going into those adolescent.
It's going to change the way your body develops. No
of
question
course.
at all.
Of
Yeah,
course.
I mean, there's no way giving a kid a puberty blocker, letting them go through life with a puberty blocker, and then at 17 or whatever the fuck it is, decide to take that shit off. You're going to be the exact same human being you would have been without
these are
that.
the same people worried about little estrogen in milk cartons. So
Yeah, I mean, then this guy's
Is it
saying...
BPA-free plastic? Because I don't want it to alter my hormones. By the
But-
way, I'm going to chop off my balls and do puberty blockers at 8.
Well, this is, I mean, you can't let a kid make those decisions. You can't make those decisions for a kid. They're too young.
he just remembered he had a wiener 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
He's not thinking about these things.
No, he's
3,
just picking
5,
his nose
15?
and wiping his booger off on the couch 3 minutes ago, and now you're letting him decide his hormonal profile?
Yeah, the idea that a child who's 6 years old or whatever would know the consequences, but them saying that 18 is too late and that it's not, that they would disagree with your primary care physician that it's too young based on the research that I've done. What fucking research have you done where you can clearly point that it's a good idea to transition a 6-year-old?
Well, that's a problem. Here's another problem. We don't know if YouTube is going to ban this video because of what you just said and
Well,
what
I
I just said.
guarantee you this video is going to get marked for demonetization.
Well, yeah.
But the Jordan Peterson one just got flagged. And we talked about this book. We talked about the 12 rules for life.
Yeah.
We talked about guidelines for living a healthy...
Just started reading it.
It's a great book. Mm-hmm. Let's keep going.
Lobsters.
Put a little more of this.
To understand themselves.
When your testicle reaches a particular diameter and the penis is developed enough, then there'll be enough. If you're going to transition the other way, there'll be enough material to create a vagina.
Oh, God.
Because that's the problem. Like, jazz...
There'd be enough material to create a vagina if the testicles and the penis are developed enough.
Did you know this? Did you know that unless your penis gets big enough, you can't get a fake vagina because there's not enough tissue to invert? So he's like, this is him. He's like, now if you decide to go transition the other way, meaning if you decide to not transition, remember how everyone made fun of this the beauty pageant girl when she was asked about gay marriage. She was like, and gay marriage or opposite marriage, and everyone laughed, and it was silly. You know what I mean? She was conservative, but it was silly. But he's doing that right here. Like, should you choose to transition or transition the other way? You mean, should you choose to not cut off your penis? That's transition the other way now?
Well, not only that, there's a lot of people in the transgender community that think it's offensive to assume that you have to get an operation, get your penis removed in order to be transgender. So this guy's making this big assumption that this is what you have to do in order to transition. I know a lot of people that are transgender that do not have the operation. I don't know a lot of people. I should just say that. I'm in a community focus group with transgender people. By the way, let me say this too. I'm 100% in favor of grown adults deciding to transition. I think you should be able to tattoo your face, get nose rings. I don't give a fuck what you do. I really don't.
Yeah, but you're also asking the government to pay for your face tattoo.
Yes, that's true. Well, and there was another thing. Here, I'll send this to you, Jamie. That was some research today that someone put out. Here, let's play this, and I'll forward this to you, Jamie. I'll text this to you. Keep playing. That's it?
That's that clip.
Okay.
I don't know. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, that's a good example. It's a public town hall, which we attend. And it gets removed from YouTube because someone who handed us his business card, Rex Butt, hilarious, by the way. Like the rest of us, we weren't nearly as mad about this as we were just in doubled over in laughter at the guy's name is Rex.
Do you think he had trouble securing the URL rights to his own name? That's a completely different website.
He has to run a search to get his URL.
Yeah, I just sent this to you, Jamie. If you follow the tweet, it is by Dr. Deborah So, and it is an article from the National Institute of Health Study. Dr. Zero Van Meter, a pediatric. Oh, okay.
Oh no,
pediatric endocrinologist. Well, she's anti all this.
Well, I'm saying they don't give any leeway to Asians. Like, it's the minority group that they actually get more crap. It's like, well, you have to be better than everyone to get into a good college because there are too many.
Because there's so many really good ones. Yeah. Okay, Dr. Q Van Meter, a pediatric endocrinologist with extensive experience in gender dysphoria, which, by the way, is hate speech, says there is 0.0 evidence that the concepts of gender fluidity and gender identity have any scientific basis.
Yeah.
So this is...
Why she includes 0.00? That's the second zero there.
She's money. She's thinking about cash.
Yeah. Doesn't mean anything.
She's thinking about cash, money. Well, I guess you could have 0.01%. You could have 1/100th.
She wanted to make sure there was no doubt.
Yeah,
she's burning those extra characters.
She likes zeros, bro. She's burning the extra 240 characters.
What's funny though is that you say like hate speech, gender dysphoria is still in the DSM-5. That's the actual the psychiatric journal that they use, the reference book.
But they literally call it hate speech now.
Yeah, I know. But it's the actual medical condition.
Right.
What's crazy in that undercover, God bless my wife, she went with us because we need other people to have hidden cameras, and so she posed as a lesbian. A movie kind of lesbian. They're like, really? You exist? And I'm like, yeah.
They weren't even hardly fooled. They couldn't say anything.
Well, she, remember, said, like, I identify as someone with bigger breasts. And she was asking how to get this covered under, Medicare, Medicaid, because they were talking about getting all these operations. And Mr. God bless him, Dr. Rex Butt was like, I think you should mention that, talk about that gender dysphoria. So for her, they use gender dysphoria to try and file it medically to get new tits on the taxpayer dime, but it was considered hate speech to say it to the transgenders in the room. It's just crazy. Like, you can't make sense of it. And I don't need to make sense of it. I just need to not be banned for talking about it. She
just wanted to be the woman she was meant to be.
Right. Well, I mean, anything that you can mock is bullshit. I mean, if you can mock it that openly, if that's that obvious, like getting bigger tits because you identify as someone with bigger tits, I mean, that's bullshit. That's why it's so funny.
I don't think I've ever been more in love with my wife than when she did that. She just, we didn't expect it. She just looked at me, she kind of nodded, she's like, I've always identified as someone who has bigger breasts.
Well, did you see that guy that got busted molesting children and said he identifies as being a 60-year-old boy? That was a really recent case. I mean, people are trying this out when they get caught doing things. And I'm not saying that there's not people out there that identify with being a man when they're actually a woman or vice versa. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of fucking crazy people out there. A lot. And to deny that, and just because it's dealing with gender, we're in Narnia now. We're in La La Land. You're not being real.
No. Well, let me ask you this, because like you said, you're not right wing. I'm pretty open about the fact that I'm right wing. I remember watching your show a while back, and you had little guy.
Jamie Kilstein?
Buck
Angel. Yeah. Little guy that used to be a gal.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And then I don't remember what I said, but it was the same kind of conversation we have here. Like, I don't just go out and be like, screw you, you're a tranny. I said, well, I just don't buy it. And he wanted to get into a fight with me. Like, he wanted to have a fight. Like, let's fight about it. This was years ago when he had him on the show.
Probably just a fresh shot of test. Jacked.
But,
he was huge at one time.
Oh, was he?
Oh, yeah. Got up to like 185, like super jacked, because just banging test in there and fucking lifting. But he was saying that his joints hurt really bad when he was doing that.
It's almost like it's unnatural. So
crazy.
But back then, when you had him on.
Jacked. Like, if I had a roll with that guy, I'd be like, fuck. All right, here we go.
No, come on. You would never come to that.
Try to be kind.
Yes, exactly. But the point is, back then, let me ask you this. Did you realize it was going to get as insane? Like, or did you just think this was this is an interesting guest?
Well, he's a nice guy. And, right. You know, I'm more than willing to call him a man. And that was one of the things that I said. I said, look, man, you're a person. Whatever your name is, whether it's Buck or Fred or Wilma, I don't care. I just, whatever you want to be called. I'll call you whatever noise that you connect with you as a being. Yeah. I'm fine with that. And if you can explain to me where you feel happier being a man, I'm 100% in support of you doing that. What drives me crazy is people making decisions for 6-year-olds, people pushing 6-year-olds in certain directions, and I know that this does happen. And I can't get too personal about this, but I have a friend who has an ex-wife that turned his child into a girl.
Yeah.
And it, like, tried this and was pushing this, and kids are very fucking pliable, man.
Oh yeah.
This is not, I mean, maybe some boys would have rejected it, and maybe he was leaning that way anyway, but she was excited about it. And this is something that a lot of people are excited about. I mean, we're talking about a 14-year-old. Oh, I mean, I just don't think you know who the fuck you are. You know, what is that girl's name? Ruby Rose? Is that her name? The attractive lesbian with the tattoos? She said that when she was young, she wanted to transition. And she's very happy that she didn't. She wanted to become a man, and she's very happy that she didn't, and she's a lesbian, and she's happy, and she's open, and super successful. But she's advocating this sort of the same thing that I'm saying. It's like, let people become a goddamn adult and then make these inalterable, life-changing decisions. This guy's saying that hormone blockers can be turned off and then you could go through a normal puberty. You're out of your fucking mind.
Right.
I'm not a doctor, but I have enough understanding of biology to know that that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's just not true.
No, it's absolutely not true. And that's one of those things. Listen, anyone can get lost in the weeds and make someone look stupid with something specific. You know, whether it's. I mean, you were showing me that compound bow out there. It's fascinating. I don't know anything about it. I'm going to be a moron. You know, less than room temperature IQ. Some doctor can come in who's pro-transgender and explain something and make it sound like we don't know what we're talking about. So when it comes to that,
see, I don't agree with you there.
Well,
I don't agree with you on that.
He could use some terms we wouldn't know, right?
But it doesn't matter. What terms are there that you don't know about a child's biological development?
Well, what they point to is they go, well, actually, there are these studies that show that the brain alterations occur before across hormone sex replacement therapy, and it's not true. So we had a few transgender people on our show, but the point is, with these, whether it's a conspiracy or this, you say, okay, I'm not a doctor, and I can't just appeal to authority. I can't just say this doctor says X. So I do have to, at this point, accepting that I'm not a doctor, accept the preponderance of evidence from the overall medical community. And combine that with the anecdotal, and combine that with, is there a motive here? Is there an agenda here? Like a lot of conspiracy theories, it just doesn't add up. Because, like, well, who benefits from telling you, the world is flat? Who benefits from it? Now, I can understand how someone might benefit from a conspiracy where it's like, oh, they make a lot of money off of this. Or was it Tim Kennedy does a hunting Hitler thing? I'm not saying it, but it's like, okay, I understand after war, they thought maybe they had Hitler and they needed the healing for the country. You go, okay, I can understand that. But with this, it just doesn't add up. None of the arguments they present add up.
It's a new way for millennial parents to whack off. Just turning each of their children into social experiments.
It's disgusting.
Well, that was Owen Benjamin's take. Yeah. Owen Benjamin's take was that this guy in Hollywood, I don't remember who it is, who was talking about transitioning his 3-year-old. And he was like, you're a fucking monster. And he was getting in trouble for this. He lost his manager.
It started on our show because he writes for our show now. We bring him in on Skype and we just sit and we kind of brainstorm. And he wasn't really out of the closet. Remember at that point? And I said, Owen, I don't think you want this, because I had lost my manager and my agent. And I was like, I don't think you want this kind of heat. And he's like, no, man, I'm totally cool with it.
Conservative?
Yeah, out of the closet as a conservative in the industry. It's a real thing.
That's hilarious.
He was like, yeah, man, no, I think it's going to be. I'm like, I don't think you want this kind of heat. And he talked about it on our show first. And it was almost like he was spitballing because then he tweeted something that was really funny from the show, And then this just all hell broke loose. And I was like, I told you that's what was going to happen. And so now he's just full bore because you can't put that back in the bottle. And that's the crazy thing. Like Owen was the quintessential non-political, just sort of happy-go-lucky comedian. It's totally changed him now. If you see his act, it's hysterical.
Yeah. Listen, I know Owen kind of did that on this show.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things that happened. Like on this show, we were just talking about all the various things. And also he was talking about his dad being flamboyant and his mom being kind of masculine. And he grew up in this weird environment. And, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
I mean, this is his take on things, and he loves to talk shit on Twitter. He loves to stir things up.
Yeah.
And he does it too much.
I told him the exact thing. I was like, Owen, just
take it down. Take it down a notch.
Love you, Owen.
Yeah, I sent him a text the other day. I'm like, I go, first of all, why are your texts coming to me green? I go, did you switch to a flip phone?
Yeah, he got rid of his phone.
Yeah, I go, are you addicted to your phone? He goes, yes. I go, dude, like, you're fucking crazy. Like, which is great, which most comedians are, in some way crazy. But I'm like, just, you're tweeting too much. He's like, you're right. I got to walk away from it.
Well, he'll tweet me. He'll tweet me this whole thing about, transgenderism or something. He'll be tweeting about, like, this reality from the left and progress. And then I'll respond. And then I don't hear anything back, and I'm like, "Oh, sorry, I was out chopping trees."
Yeah, like literally.
You're like, "Yeah, no, that's yeah."
His brother's an arborist, and he helps his brother. I mean, he's literally on fucking 20 feet up with the ropes and shit.
He shipped me maple syrup for Christmas.
Did he?
Yeah. Owen's a great guy. The problem is with Owen, when we get in the same room, Jared, someone else has to manage us because like bing, bing, bing. We're both
crazy.
But I love him, and I hate that happened to him too. Remember when you and I had that conversation? I was like,
I just feel that what Owen needs to do is do a podcast and get his, just get his stuff out there more, and he'll find his own audience. He doesn't need all this other shit. There's an illusion in Hollywood that you need to be cast in things. You need to be castable. And this castable thing, and I've said this, one of the reasons why I have no actor friends is because I have a couple that I'm friendly with, but as my inner circle of people I hang around with on a regular basis, comics and fighters and just people that I know, they deal in reality. The actors are always trying to get cast in things, and there's a dynamic that occurs when you're always trying to get cast in things where you never want to say anything that's controversial. You don't want to have any opinions that don't fit into the standard, acceptable, digestible Hollywood dogma, whatever it is, and it's always left wing.
Oh, yeah.
Look at what happened with Tim Allen. He came out as right wing, and they canceled his fucking show. They're like, fuck you and fuck your show.
Yeah, he was a John Kasich guy.
Yeah.
So the thing is, you don't have to be alt-right. John Kasich, as big of a pussy as the Republican Party as ever known.
A moderate Republican, but still right-wing enough where they were like, fuck you.
Like if you just come out
a wiener.
saying you just like to touch little boys, like it just ruins your career. It's disappointing.
You would think so. You would not have made a YouTube video about it. It shows up on your suggested feed.
What are you talking about?
House of Cards. Kevin Spacey.
Oh,
It's crazy.
He's a different animal. That's a different animal. I guess I never met him, but I guess that has been the thing about him forever.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. This is like what Milo talked about, okay? And this is all very taboo stuff, but in the gay community, it's far more acceptable for a man to be dating a 15, 16, 17-year-old boy that's openly gay than it is in the straight community. If the straight community, if you find out that a 40-year-old man is dating a 14-year-old girl, that guy's a piece of shit, and he should be locked in a fucking cage.
Right.
But if you find out that in the gay community, it's not
different strokes.
It's not thought of the same.
It's different strokes. I mean, I can name you several people when we worked in Canadian TV, particularly like makeup artists who were like, "No, be careful, Michelle likes them young." It was a common thing.
Right.
And I am not at all saying that it's acceptable with Kevin Spacey. But what I am saying is what bothers me, the same with the Me Too campaign. Like Meryl Streep coming out, everyone coming out with the Harvey Weinstein thing. Germ, right? Germ, piece of crap, get it, we all know.
Right.
Not one person, they all come out like, yeah, he tried to do that with me too. Not one person came out and said, yeah, I got 3 Oscars. I did it, bitch. No one. No one admitted. No one. Just like no one else is saying, yeah, it's a well-known secret. This happens a lot in Hollywood. There are a lot of guys with young 15-year-old boys. It's super common. You go to the right bar here in Los Angeles.
Well, the Bryan Singer thing, right?
Right.
When Bryan Singer, there was photos of his party. There's a pool filled with boys. Like literally. And what's fucked up about it is there's red lights in the pool. And we had a field day with it. You could imagine where we imagined the blood came from. But literally a red pool filled with young hairless boys.
They weren't hiding it.
No.
That's the thing.
They didn't have to.
No.
It's fully accepted.
That's why the fake outrage bothers me. I
don't think it's a fake outrage. I think...
Selective.
Yes.
From the left in Hollywood, not America.
Yes.
In America is outraged that Kevin Spacey's stooping 14-year-old boys.
Well, I think it wasn't just that. I think what really got Kevin in trouble was not just the initial story, but then that he was grabbing dicks on the set, and he was just... He would get there's the red pool. I mean, come on, son.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, if that was a bunch of gals and you were
that's just the X-Men 4 casting party.
That'd be a boldly painting video for YouTube.
This is all Wolverine's next victims. Let's see what you guys look like. Bloody. Get in the pool.
It was a casting party for the first class.
Yeah, but what Milo was saying when he was on the podcast, which ultimately got him in a lot of trouble and lost his, and then also he's saying it on that other podcast that he did with the Amazing Atheist. I forget what do they call their podcast. Do you know the podcast?
I just know Milo got in trouble.
Scoundrels or something.
It's something like that.
Yeah.
Jamie will find it when he comes back from the bathroom.
Oh, he's gone?
He just bolted to the bathroom.
Right.
But what he was saying essentially was that when you're a young boy and you're gay, you can have a very positive relationship with an older man who acts as a mentor. And that was extremely controversial and that ultimately cost him. And he was also saying that he had that done to him. On my podcast, that's what he said, that when he was young, he was molested. But he said, he goes, I was the predator. Believe me, I was the predator.
Well, you know what? It's the difference with someone who hasn't done stand-up. They don't know where that line is.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, you know that if you try working that out in the club, and like, believe me, I was a predator, the crowd is going to go from laughing to, what? And that's the line. Now I scale it back.
But he's 14, right? If you're 14 and you're saying that you were the predator and you're the guy on stage, you're not the man who's talking about a 14-year-old boy that you want to fuck. You're talking about you being 14 and loving the fact that a priest molested you and that you went after him. I was a predator. You know, when he was saying that, it was...
Don't do that. It's very off-putting.
It's amazing. Anna Coulter. She's beautiful. She's wise. She has an amazing smile. What he does is a lot of it is shtick. And like it's sort of like a gonzo journalism type thing, right? Like you don't know where's the shtick, where's your real feelings on these things, and then where is the distinction between how some heterosexual people look at this and some gay people look at this? Because I think the spectrum is different. Like the spectrum of heterosexual people that think it's acceptable for a grown man to have sex with a 14-year-old is fucking very small, like insanely small, backwoods. You know, like,
there's no straight NAMBLA with political clout.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know, there's no one has a NAMBLA bumper sticker, but for
is NAMBLA real anymore? Is that still
It is a real thing.
Fuck.
Someone tried to say I was a member of NAMBLA at one point on YouTube and suggested feed, and I was like, okay, all right. I don't think that one's going to stick. I mean, it's so now it's like pick something and scale it back. Yeah.
Now it is. Now they're going to reignite it. We got to him. We got to him. That was the one.
Do a little bit of this.
What is that?
Don't you know?
That's Jehovah. That's Jay-Z, bro.
Yeah, Illuminati. We meet on Tuesdays.
Oh, Illuminati. I always forget. Yeah,
every now and then.
Jay-Z, he's in the Illuminati, I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, him and Seth MacFarlane.
They let him in. They let him all.
Wining and dining every Tuesday.
Yeah, Elon Musk meets him, but he has to show up secret.
Yeah, it is. Here's one thing I will say. So, like, this is why people say you're right wing. Okay, and I'm not saying you are. So let me preface it. But the reason they are, there is no leftist show out there. You say, which leftist shows? They're not having this discussion. It doesn't exist. There is the wild progressive left and the people who get in line. There is not enough of a contingency today. Put it this way. James Damore let go for what he wrote on Google. Not a single person we asked at the YouTube conference had ever owned a gun or knew someone who owned a gun. YouTube, Google, Facebook, NBC, ABC, CNN, CBS, all of them, none of them are standing up and having this conversation saying even the highly controversial issue of puberty blockers with which most people disagree. They just go, puberty blockers, a new topic of discussion. They go, the left cannot have this conversation because you have to draw the line before puberty blockers. You have to draw the line at how far do we have to play along with your delusion. Doesn't mean I don't like Buck Angel. Doesn't mean we don't have Blair White in our YouTube Carol video and are very nice with her.
Who's very against actual. Puberty blockers.
Yeah, very against them.
Yeah. And also untransformed in the nether regions.
Blair White?
Yeah.
See, that's what we were
wanted to ask. Her boyfriend discussed it.
Super cool dude, by the way.
Seems like a nice guy.
Seems like a nice, but you're always asking questions. You're like, this is, You're asking questions. Sorry, man.
Why? You're not allowed to.
You're not allowed to.
Why can't you ask questions?
But be honest, as soon as they leave the room, you're like, so is that?
Well, why can't you just ask? Well, what the fuck, man? I mean, that's as open as possible. You're saying you used to be a man and now you're a woman. It's all on the table now, baby. What could possibly be offensive after that?
Or more interesting than talking about that.
Sure.
Well, the reason is because my mom, who did wardrobe for the Just for Laughs and a lot of Canadian sitcoms, so she does wardrobe for us now as we've grown into these sketches. And so Blair White was the ghost of Christmas Past in this parody that we did. And so my mom had to go in and do wardrobe and fitting. And so she had some questions. And my mom's French Canadian, she comes back to me, she's like, no, I think she had I don't think she has that anymore. I'm like, well, why? Because she said, I did all this work. I'm like, but Mom, that could just mean, she clearly has breasts.
Tits and lips.
She's like, no, I don't know, but I don't know, with the pants when we fit, I need to know. This is not a conversation you want to have with your mom.
That's another hilarious character you do, is that socialist French guy.
Oh,
the Montreal guy. Yeah.
Bernie's, we have had interviews with people.
Did you meet Bernie? You said he's on the flight with you?
He was on a flight with me.
Did you take a selfie with him?
I put on my Socialisms for Figs shirt in the bathroom. Here's what's so funny about Bernie Sanders.
Socialism for fakes?
Figs. It says figs because it got banned from Instagram. So it has a little fig leaf from the Che Guevara thing. Anyway,
okay.
You'll see it. You'll see it if you go to the store. Point is, Bernie gets on the plane. This is right after the debate with Ted Cruz, the healthcare debate, which did not go well for him. And he doesn't even have a briefcase. So he's not doing work. He's going from D.C. to Burlington, Vermont, and he is, I swear to you, I took a picture, on the absolute last row of Economy Plus, where that first class curtain goes by.
Probably asked for that seat.
Because he can claim it I don't fly first class. You're worth $5 million.
There's no entitlements.
You're sitting there with your 128 gigabyte iPad Pro.
I could see it because I had the new bezel.
The new bevel.
So the new bevel. So I could see.
They're saving all the money to deal with his wife's lawsuit for tanking that college in Vermont.
I know that college too. Yeah.
That story is fucking crazy. That it was a wild purchasing scheme that tanked the college. They decided to expand the land and buy, and they tanked the college because of that.
Not picture that,
but
America.
But what the fuck are you doing? You're overspending?
Yeah. What do you mean? Why do you sound surprised? The Sanders are overspending.
What we need to do is get the rich people to pay for this.
Well, it's funny. So I put on the shirt, and they're like, "You have to take a picture." At this point, it was 12:30 in the morning. I was on the way to the Burlington Trinity Town Hall, and so I get off the plane, and Bernie gets off the plane first, priority plus, but not first class. Didn't get the free cocktail, mind you.
How's he get off the plane first then?
After first class. First class, then him. He gets off the plane second. No.
Oh.
First class, and then he's economy plus.
Oh, so he's right behind
right on that
his
border.
foot sits in first class.
He is first class and everything but name only, and he says that every debate. Oh, unlike my opponent, I don't sit in first class. All right, Bernie. So he gets out first, and I walk behind him, and it was like what's his name? Brooks in Shawshank Redemption. He was so old, and everyone's walking down this path, and he walks down this one hall by himself with his iPad Pro. And I remember calling Jared. I said, I can't do it. I said, I can't get ready. It's 12:30 in the morning. The guy looks like he's at death's door.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be that jerk who cornered him. I just wanted to talk with him. I wasn't going to, sandbag him, but he looked it was so sad.
Well, his posture is so awful. His neck sits in the middle of his sternum. It's
like Mr. Burns.
Like a turtle. It's crazy. It's like, man, you got to sit up straight. That's not healthy. You got to be in pain all the time. If your head is like that low, well, what we got to do? The economy.
We got to give the money to the blacks so they can pay for my physical therapy and bail my wife out.
Income inequality.
That's all. He has a few buzzwords
down here. Yeah, but it's. What I liked about him was that he seemed like a uniting force with white people and black people. It seemed like he was, he's doing interviews with Killer Mike, even though he's anti-gun, and Mike is super pro-gun. I'm like, I like the fact that people are embracing this crazy old guy, and
they push him off the stage. Though.
They push him off the stage. Really, the black people took him.
That's right. Well, he let them.
So you mean he was uniting force because of pussy?
That was a pussy move. That was not the platform. I mean, if they wanted to have a meeting, they should have had a meeting. You can't just jump up and
have
scream.
Killer Mike sitting in the White House in the Oval Office right now.
That'd be fine.
If he's president. I'm president now.
I don't.
Yeah.
Okay. I think the problem is even if you had people who were economic socialists who were on board with him, we have a lot of people who were pro Bernie who then changed because they just said, well, then he went full SJW and the Black Lives Matter and the feminism, and that's why I say even if you find
a politician.
nobody believes that. Like, here's the thing, when you're in these town halls and they don't know that they all agree. It really is a monolith. And like, that's why they say you're right wing, because the truth is, you could be considered right wing, just like he could, just like I could, just like Jordan Peterson could, just like Milo could, just like Ben Shapiro. And all of us have wildly differing views. If you were to check the box off with Cenk, Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, take your pick, they would check the same boxes because they have to. And I think that's why they're losing so much ground culturally.
And the boxes are shifting too. So where the right side is expanding all the different boxes you could possibly check, the left is shrinking. You have to get in line with these things.
What we
right
need
down
is
the line.
a real center. And this country does not have a real center. And I think that drives people to the left and to the right. I think it's a big issue. There's just too much toxic tribal thinking here.
I just think we need truth. That's the thing. Like, to me, is I don't care if you're left or right, just don't lie to me.
Yeah.
And the left has been able to lie to everyone because they've controlled the information delivery for a long time. And I know that sounds conspiratorial.
But it's right. It's like what we're talking about with Tim Allen. I mean, that is right. I mean, it's what we're talking about with actors, how you talk to most actors when it comes to anything political, they're almost all left-wing. That doesn't even make sense. Like,
they're terrified.
Could that be? Exactly.
Yeah, they're terrified. There are a few people, like we've had, like Gary Sinise in the show, and we've had some bigger name actors where they have screw you money where it doesn't matter.
Right.
But he's just the nicest guy ever, where he doesn't even talk about politics. He just, builds these smart homes for veterans just because he's like a saint.
Right.
But there are other actors we can't even necessarily name who are like, I'd really like to do the show, but I can't yet when I get to this stage of my career. I'm sure you've probably heard from those people too.
Yeah.
They're afraid.
Yeah, I've had people like that say, I want to go hunting. And I'm like, well, let's film it. No. No. I'm like, you don't want people to know that that's how you get your food? I mean, do you know 97% of the country eats meat? And like, really? Is it that high? I'm like, yeah, it's that high. Like, what is it? You're paying for it, right? So you're paying for the murder. You're cool with that, but you're not cool with doing it yourself.
Right.
He goes, no, I'm totally cool with it. I just don't want anybody else to know. Like, okay, well, that's part of the problem because people don't want anybody else to know. That's why it becomes so scary and taboo.
Right.
And very few people come out. It's just, it's a lot of the same thing because it's like you're not willing to express your authentic self. Well,
and that's why university, like we're going to be at Virginia Tech, is it the 6th?
A week from today.
A week from today, and with already people getting ready on Facebook to protest. And I'm like, you haven't even seen the show. You don't even know what it is. This is the first time we're going to take the show on the road and broadcast live. I mean, it's just a powder keg because no one's allowed to think differently.
Right.
Picture collegiate campuses. That's what the left, that's their utopia.
Listen, you brought us something that I think changed the way people look at social justice warriors. That lady that was in the audience in Amherst, was it in Amherst?
Oh, Trigglypuff.
That was like a gift from the heavens. That poor gal. It was like somebody created the caricature.
Did you just assume her gender?
I did.
Dude, even that's a gamble. That's a roll of the dice, too. You shouldn't even be that confident.
I'm a pig. But when she was screaming at you, I'm like, this is not real. This is like Butt Rex. This is not real.
No, Rex Butt. It's even worse.
Same shit. This is not real. This can't be real. This woman's not real. Like, this is like a caricature. This is a Michael J. Fox movie from the 80s where you're like, there's no way that's a real person.
Well, you remember how stressed I was about that?
Yeah.
Because here's the deal. Like, this was my first time. I was there, and it was Milo and Christine Hoff Summers. Now, at this point, remember you used to do like the NACA or COCA when you would do college stuff, back when you. So that was my experience with colleges, and I hated it. But for the first time, I know now that people are going to be protesting to a significant degree. And I just wanted to go out and do some.
Kind of is their degree.
Yeah, do some, like I was telling him, like, I don't know what I do here because, like, they're just going to speak and lecture, and I want to do just, a 20-minute set.
Right.
And it's really tough because if you don't acknowledge a heckler, if you don't acknowledge the person, but then when you come out and it's just Trigglypuff who doesn't have enough middle fingers to give, I've never given anyone the finger from the stage. I've never gone, but I was like, I realized immediately, I'm not going to be able to do stand-up, and that was the rant that went viral. Yeah. Which I didn't expect. I was like, I'm just going to stay. I'm just going to do my set, and then afterwards we'll do a Q&A. They wouldn't allow it. And I just saw her, and I just couldn't. She looked like the broad from Monsters, Inc. at the front desk. I was just laughing. Like,
she really did.
Yeah. Just
poor gal.
And everyone wants to. Here's the thing. I think it was my parents who maybe said this to me when I was young, and I got cocky about something at one point, and they said, "Don't ever brag because it keeps us from being able to brag for you. Let someone else do it."
That's interesting.
Wise words.
That's a good way of putting it.
Same thing with Triggly.
Did they say it with an accent?
Yes, we don't get to brag for you. Does she have a penis? I don't know. So
she had the work done.
Well, think about this. If Trigglypuff didn't come out there and keep your hate speech off this campus, fuck you!
For about 8 seconds, she tuckered out pretty quick.
She tuckered, yeah. She didn't have the stamina.
She needs carbs.
If she didn't do that, we would all be sitting there talking about how, if we just saw her, how we feel bad for her.
Yes.
Like, oh man, that girl, I hope she gets, you know what, I would be sympathetic. But you preclude us from being empathetic when you act like an absolute piece of shit your whole life. Like, all of a sudden, we've shut off this empathy for people because of the way they behave. We would all be like, oh man, poor girl. You know, I hope she finds a guy. I'm sure she'll find a guy who likes him, you know, bigger, and you know, she can get it together. And I've seen some people turn it around. But when she does that, you're just like, oh, I can't stand
BuzzFeed Boldy's hiring.
See, I thought it was so ridiculous that I didn't even think that way. Obviously, I wasn't in the room while she was screaming at me while I was on the stage. I probably would have been furious. But sitting back, watching it from the comfort of my house, watching it on YouTube, I was like, what the fuck happened? This poor kid. Like, I just like, this used to be someone, you know, as a person who has daughters, like, this is someone's baby. And then became this. Like, someone didn't pay attention to her. They fed her bad food, and she's there by herself. Like, the whole thing was crazy. Keep your hate speech off my camera. Meanwhile, Christina Hoff Sommers, by the way, couldn't be a nicer person.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and it was so funny watching her with you and Milo, and she's like, well, I wouldn't say that. Well, I'm not necessarily saying that.
Yeah, the Islam stuff she got uncomfortable because it was on there.
She couldn't be a nicer lady. I really love her.
She's really sweet. Well, think about that. We're on there. She's basically kind of a lifelong Democrat.
Feminist.
She's branded right-wing now, probably.
Yeah. She's branded right-wing.
She's branded alt-right.
Yeah.
She is a super feminist, but she calls herself the factual feminist. And her idea is that when you distort reality, when you distort biology, when you distort facts, you are doing your cause a disservice, which is her cause, being an actual feminist. She's a real feminist, and she doesn't think there's anything wrong with being a woman. She's like, she doesn't think there's anything wrong with wearing dresses, putting on makeup or lipstick. Or you're a woman. You know,
there's probably 2 boxes she didn't check in the left column.
Right.
Therefore,
right. And by the way, she doesn't think there's anything wrong with not doing that either.
Right.
She's very open-minded, but she calls bullshit. And because she calls bullshit on that group, she's shoved into this fucking Nazi category, which is so crazy to me.
Yeah. Well, and the danger with that is, let's say 10 years down the line, right? You refer to me as a Nazi. You refer to Joe Rogan as a Nazi. NotGay Jared as a Nazi. Christine Hoff Sommers. You know what happens is when you refer to someone as a Nazi for reasonable views for just long enough, they start saying, okay, you know what? Let's go with Nazi. And people actually go the pendulum swings further the other way. That's what you're seeing with Europe. That's what you're seeing with this far right rise.
Right.
Because like Sven Computer, who works for us, we brought him over from Germany. He said, there's a certain point where young people don't want to go to every museum and go, yeah, we suck because we've had nothing to do with it. Do you realize in Germany, you pay 65% income tax if you're under the age of 30?
Whoa.
But school is free. Think about that for a second.
65%?
It's 50, but Sven was telling us there's some additional, it's basically 65%, and it's entirely based on your age bracket. You're under 30, you pay 65%. That's your effective tax rate.
Whoa.
So you have these...
That's a lot of money, man.
I know.
That hurts.
Yeah, but that's what you see. You see this far-right rise in Europe. Because if you call someone a Nazi for so long, you're like, well, hold on a second, I'm not a Nazi. I just don't want Paris to become a rape den.
Yeah, well, when you go from calling someone a Nazi and then you see Charlottesville, when you see guys with Nazi tattoos, you go, oh, well, that's a Nazi.
Exactly.
This is a real Nazi. This is a moron with a swastika tattooed on his chest.
And a Dodge Challenger.
Yeah. All this craziness left and right, I'm just hoping it settles. And what you said, truth. That's what I like. I like truth.
I don't think, that's where I always, I know people get upset. I don't think truth is necessarily in the middle. I think truth is truth. And sometimes it's really far to the right, and sometimes it's in the middle. I don't think that there's much truth in today's progressive left.
No, I think there's an ideological war going on, and I think especially with Trump in office, they feel like the gloves are off and all rules are out the window and anything goes.
Yeah.
I think people are flabbergasted. And I was telling Jamie before the show, like, I'm not without my criticisms for Trump, but I gotta admit, every time stuff just rolls off his back like water on a duck, I start fucking laughing. Like they were like, this Stormy Daniels thing is gonna sink him. I have a friend of mine who's gay and he's the nicest guy in the world, but he's so ridiculous. He's like, that's our Monica Lewinsky. She's our Monica. I go, dude, it's not gonna work. I go, no one's gonna care. It's gonna disappear in a couple weeks. I go, we're in a 10-hour news cycle. Do you understand this?
Yeah.
I go, in 10 hours, some new shit comes along, and nobody gives a fuck about Brett Ratner anymore, and nobody gives a fuck about this guy. And there's a new guy, and there's a new new thing, and there's a new problem, and there's a new there's a new thing. And you're saying that this porn star thing, this is not 1994. This porn star thing is not going to sink him. Right. He's going to deny it, fake news, and he's going to keep moving, and there's going to be nothing.
Yeah. I don't even know what happened with that exactly, but to me, I just was like, I got to disconnect for a bit because I've been just going. So I disconnected and I like kind of popped my head in for half a day just because we're moving to a new studio, kind of like you've been doing. And I popped my head in and was like, what's in the news? What's this outrage right now? Do I need to know about Donald Trump? And they said, no, yeah, he called Haiti a shithole. And I just popped my head back on. I'm like, of course it is. That's it. No one cares anymore. It's like, of course Haiti is a It doesn't mean you hate Haitians.
He said, why do these people from these shithole countries want to come here? That's what he supposedly said. He says he didn't say it. Some people say he did. Other people say he didn't.
Who cares?
So we're in a weird quagmire. Yeah. If he said
let's say he did.
Let's say he did.
Yeah. It's not the appropriate thing for a president of the United States to say, but does it make sense that Donald Trump would say that? Yes.
Well, no. You want to know how you know it's a shithole? Because French Canadians are some of the most racist people you will find. Love you, Mom. But they create these French laws. I've talked about this before. Pure laine, it means pure wool, because they want to get rid of all the Anglophones, right? And so then they had a huge Haitian immigration because there's a lot of French and people from Cameroon.
Now special diseases because of inbreeding.
And they were furious. So they tried to create laws to keep the Haitians out because they were, it was just a clash of cultures. Here's the thing. Haiti is, whether Donald Trump said it or not, as a country, a shitty place. And I don't think anyone cares anymore. It doesn't mean I hate Haitians. It doesn't mean I'm not empathetic to them. But how is it racist?
They're very unfortunate that they're in a bad place.
Yeah, but how is it racist if especially you're criticizing a government which comprises of black people who are screwing a black citizenry? They've been doing it for decades. They've never gotten it right.
But Rainn Wilson took a picture from Sandals. So.
Yeah, he took a picture from Club Med.
Sandals. Most people don't even know what that is. The resort. That's so funny. Yeah,
I don't know. I think it is.
It's in the Bahamas, I think.
Jamaica, a few of those
places. I think
places.
it's one of those places.
No locale in Haiti.
A couple of the other shitholes.
I mean, it's one of those things where I think, if nothing else, Donald Trump has allowed people, and we weren't Trump people, we got so much flack from the alt-right because we didn't support Donald Trump.
Right, I remember that. And you were more in support of Ted Cruz, right?
I liked Carly Fiorina.
And Ben Carson. A little bit, right?
I just thought he was hysterical.
Well, he's a smart guy.
Yeah.
He's also crazy.
Yeah, he's like a Jim Henson character.
My favorite thing was him with Jesus, the painting, Jesus on his shoulder, like hanging on to him. Like, whoa, Ben.
It's like you can be a neurosurgeon. You're an absolute genius in that, but you don't have the sense of like, maybe I shouldn't put Jesus on my shoulder and painting like a macaw.
Well, Jordan Peterson said something that's very brilliant. He said there is absolutely no correlation with being smart and being wise.
It's true.
It's true. There's a lot of people that are really fucking smart at things, but they are not wise in terms of how they behave and how they think and how they conduct their life and whether or not they pay for a Jesus painting where he's holding their shoulder. It doesn't even look like Jesus. It looks like a Puerto Rican. It looks like some dude is slinging tacos. It's a crazy painting. It's so bad.
Is this new? The sky up here?
Yeah,
the clouds? That's nice.
Well, everything's new. We used to have stars, but the panels were too dark in this room because the lighting is different here, so we changed them to clouds.
Got the American flag in there. That's why people also think you're right wing. Think about
America.
it. When do you ever see a leftist?
Fuck yeah.
When do you ever see a current progressive leftist with patriotic symbolism? They can.
I usually have a American flag case, but I ordered one for my iPhone X and I didn't get it yet. Look, I love America. I think America represents a beautiful place of opportunity, and it's not perfect, but I think it's the best place. I've been to a lot of different places. If you think there's something wrong with being patriotic, I think you're fucking crazy. I don't think America represents the worst aspects of us. I think it represents possibility and promise, and that you have this ability to do whatever the fuck you want to do. There's not a class structure. You can literally go from the bottom to the top. I mean, you can do whatever the fuck you want to do in this country. There's some restrictions. People say it's not a free country. Hey, man, go to Canada. It's a lot more fucking free than Canada. In Canada, you can go to jail for not using someone's preferred gender pronouns. There's a case that just was out a couple of days ago where some woman had a sign, and and they boiled it down to like one word. But her sign said that a transgender woman is a man, and just because you feel something like that, it does not overtake biology. And it was this like long thing. This transgender person wanted to file a human rights violation case against her and get her arrested, and said, that the only way this person would be willing to not do that would be to sit down with this woman and have coffee with her, explain to her why she's wrong. Well, she doesn't think she's wrong. So that's why you can't just decide that this person has to acquiesce. They have to give in to your particular ideology and your line of thinking. Otherwise, it's hate speech. Right. That's not the answer. Like, the answer to, if you think someone's wrong, the answer is proving them wrong and having a conversation about it. Like, someone deciding that not only is it wrong, but they're going to lock you up for it. They're going to sue you. Like, that's crazy. And I think, especially with that Trudeau guy up there, like, whoa.
Well,
that guy's over the deep end.
Remove a couple of fucks, and you could have just run for office with that speech. It was very inspiring.
Look, and I could probably get up there and be, if I could be a Canadian, like, I'm a big fan of Canada. I'm a big fan, but they've got a few problems.
Well, that's the first person I ever voted for was Stephen Harper. Right? So here's the deal. Back then, I'm that guy. I'm open about it, Christian conservative.
Explain who Harper is.
Stephen Harper was the prime minister before Trudeau. So Stephen Harper is the Canadian equivalent of a conservative. So that would be like a little left of John Kasich here in the States.
He was their Reagan. They kind of referred him that way.
Yeah, he was. I mean, they didn't have the housing bubble because they didn't do the subprime loans. Right. Canada was doing really well for the first time, was higher in the Economic Freedom Index in the United States. I voted for him. And everyone hated him. Why? Because he was a practicing Christian conservative who believed in some form of limited government. Well, now they have Trudeau. It's like, surprise! I remember Stephen Boisson was a pastor, and I talked about this a lot. And this was one slippery slope thing. Everyone said, "No, you're just crazy. He's a religious nutbag." This guy, Stephen Boisson, was a pastor who I think was jailed. He certainly was fined just because he said, "I don't care what the law is in the land. I'm not going to marry two men in my congregation. I'm not going to recognize that as marriage." That's what he said. Whether you agree with him or not, this was years ago, and people on the left back then supported it because, like, well, it only affects the Christian pastor who doesn't want to marry dudes back then. Well, now it doesn't. Now it affects the person who says, if you're born a man, you're a man. And now it affects Mike Ward, the comedian who was put before a human rights tribunal for making fun of the Make-A-Wish Kid Foundation.
Yeah.
It does. At a certain point, you have to draw the line. And do we want to decide that we're going to draw the line when it comes to, like, for example, puberty blockers? Or do we draw the line when someone tries to strangle Ben Shapiro on the Dr. Drew show because he implies that the guy with the penis is still a man?
That was rough. That was a rough one because the guy was literally threatening violence, and it was okay because Ben had misgendered him.
And they went after Ben, like, well, Ben, to be fair, you knew that was going to...
Not only that, but touched him. But it was like putting his hands on him, which is very threatening. If someone's threatening me and they're putting their hands on me, I'm on DEFCON 9. I'm ready to go. Like, where's this going, bitch? Why are you holding on to me? Are we fighting?
Yeah.
Because you're holding me. You're gripping me and holding me, and you're way bigger than me. That guy was way bigger than Ben. But Ben was fucking strong there.
That seems mildly inappropriate for political discussion.
Yeah. That was funny the way he said it.
That was mild. Yeah. We're sitting there like, oh my gosh. But yeah, he said, if you don't be careful, you sound like the Joker.
You're gonna wind up in the
If
hospital.
you don't be careful, you're gonna go home in an ambulance, young man. It's like,
are you gonna beat me up because I say the wrong word? Really? Can you imagine?
That's what I'm saying.
But you were a man, right?
He was like the Clubber Lang of trannies.
Well, that was one of the things that I got into it with someone online about Fallon Fox. I said, someone said she was always a woman. I go, okay, but she got a man. She had a penis. She used to be a man. She got a woman pregnant and had a kid with that woman. I go, was she a woman then? She goes, even then. I'm like, we're done. Yeah, we're done. We're in Narnia again.
I don't know how you kept track of it.
And now that woman is CEO of YouTube.
Because I didn't expect that. I felt like I could say, hey, I don't think it's cool if you get your penis removed and beat the fuck out of women. I felt like that's a safe thing to say.
I didn't know it was going to be a controversy.
And people were like, you're a bigot. And I was like, wow. Well, okay. Maybe you should at least tell them that you used to be a man. No, it's a medical procedure, and it has no basis whatsoever in your physical performance. Well, that's not even structurally true. That doesn't even make any sense. No. The physical body's built differently. Can you imagine if Brock Lesnar decided to be a woman? Just imagine. There's not enough hormone blockers in the world to keep that fucking Viking off of you.
Didn't have to tell anybody.
No, it's a medical procedure.
Well, they don't want you. The left doesn't want you to tell people you have AIDS. A penis is much.
That's a California law now.
Yeah.
Chad with AIDS.
Isn't that wonderful? It used to be a felony. And now it
should be.
Yes. If you have a fatal disease and you fuck someone in the butt without a condom, that's
or at a red pool party.
You mean it can't just be transferred by playing spin the bottle?
Did you ever see the guy who authored that?
Yes. Yeah, the Folsom Street Fair with the little leather X.
Yes.
Looks like a Bryan Singer pool party.
It's hilarious.
It's hysterical.
That guy passed that through. It's because people weren't paying attention. Like that's crazy. Like I don't care if it's AIDS or if you could give someone cancer, like if you have cancer and you have, if it was a communicable disease and you decided to make out with someone who doesn't have cancer and you gave it to them, like, fuck, man, you just killed somebody.
You just smoked a pipe and kissed me, and now I have esophageal cancer. The bigger conversation on that too is they're
obviously it's not fatal anymore because of protease inhibitors and all this stuff, but the reality is
you just compared AIDS to cancer. There's once a day where you could just compare AIDS to AIDS, and it was pretty bad.
Well, they used to call AIDS the gay cancer. That's when AIDS first came out. They called it the gay cancer.
Oh, we did a thing on that where we did.
That's offensive.
We did. You remember that show Wishbone? We did a parody with our dog Hopper. We did the AIDS epidemic. Now the AIDS epidemic was always a hoax. There was never an epidemic. Basically, if you were not doing heroin with dirty needles or having gay unprotected sex with George Michael, you were pretty much safe. People got so mad.
You said they knew it.
Yeah.
People knew it.
Do you remember the Kinnison bit?
Yeah, I remember the Kinnison bit. Hysterical.
Yeah.
So we had a guy who came on, it was actually very civil, who disagreed. But by the end of it, he just said, well, I guess I just disagreed because the way you said it was so incendiary. And I said, well, hold on a second. Why is it incendiary? I am the one actually trying to prevent people from getting AIDS. There are very specific patterns of behavior that you avoid. Don't have gay unprotected sex in a truck stop. Don't do heroin in the East Village, like Rent. You ever watch the movie Rent? You ever see that movie?
No. Oh, because I'm straight.
I went to go see it. I remember people were crying at Rent.
Oh.
And like every single person was doing heroin in the East Village and having unprotected sex with each other. If you make it past noon without getting AIDS, you're on borrowed time. Like, I don't feel bad for you at this point. But we had people, they gave us so much flack over the AIDS epidemic, and none of them disagreed with the statistics. You're just not supposed to say it. Think about that for a second, though. The issue with that Folsom Street Fair senator or congressman, I'm talking.
Yes, the guy with the beautiful leather vest with no shirt on underneath it, wandering through the streets with a tie around his neck that looks suspiciously like a leash.
It was a Hot Topic discount item.
Yeah.
Think about if Donald Trump had done that. It was on sale with the Hello Kitty backpacks. Yeah. So his argument, I remember, was, well, these disclosure laws, and by the way, for people who don't know, it means you have to disclose that you have AIDS if you're having sex with somebody.
Right.
So these disclosure laws only serve to stigmatize people. Hold on a second. Does it mean that we can't stigmatize anyone or anything ever? We can't stigmatize AIDS?
Right.
Like, it doesn't mean we hate you, but we
consciously delivering it into someone. I mean, that's the problem, like being aware.
At what point are we okay stigmatizing?
Right.
I mean, what does it take to say, like, well, you know what? Okay, maybe we should stigmatize. If I were to use an absurd example in a bit, it would be like, okay, maybe we should stigmatize knowingly transferring AIDS to somebody through unprotected butt sex as a goof. But instead, we don't want to stigmatize that.
You're not even supposed to say AIDS, right? Because it's HIV, and then HIV gives AIDS. You get AIDS because your immune system is compromised, and what AIDS is a syndrome, acquired immune deficiency syndrome. I never got more hate in all the years I did this podcast than one of the early episodes. What was that doctor's name? The doctor from the University of California, Berkeley. He is ostracized from the medical community, but he's a
Duisberg.
Yes, Dr. Peter Duisberg. He wrote an article in Spin magazine way back in the day, and his assertion was that HIV is a very weak virus, and that HIV is appearing in the systems of these people because they have compromised immune systems. It's not AIDS, it's not HIV that's giving these people compromised immune systems. They already have compromised immune systems. And he was saying the reason why they're having these compromised immune systems is because of amyl nitrate and crystal meth and party drugs. And he showed overwhelming, like in his mind, overwhelming evidence that all these people that got AIDS were getting their immune system was compromised because of partying.
Yeah.
They were saying this is why it's so prevalent in the gay party community. He's like, and he was talking about how you destroy your immune system with amyl nitrate. You destroy your immune system with crystal meth. And if you check the immune systems of these people, of course it's going to be devastated. They're doing hardcore party drugs, and they're doing them all the time. He said this, and he published a bunch of stuff on it. People went crazy. I mean, it was not a scientific debate. It was more of a social issue.
Yeah. How dare you stigmatize crystal meth?
Like it wasn't. But if it wasn't a gay thing, here's the thing: if AIDS was just something you found truck stop people who were just doing meth and shooting heroin, and they're all, for whatever reason, they're getting this disease, you would go, oh, I bet a disease is probably maybe has something to do with the fact they're all doing meth. No. Unrelated. Okay. but meth's bad, right? Oh, it's terrible. But amyl nitrate's devastating. Oh, instant brain damage. Amyl nitrate causes instant brain damage. You pop one of those things.
Was it like ammonia, like smelling salts?
Poppers. Yeah, they do them. It apparently opens your.
Well, a lot of powerlifters would do those before big, like setting
some
records.
smelling salts. Yeah, different stuff.
Okay.
Amyl nitrate is a potent drug.
All right.
Yeah. Actually, somebody talked about that yesterday. Ben Greenfield talked about that yesterday. Some insanely disgusting smelling salt that you barely hold up to your nose, and you do lifts like right after that.
Yeah.
It excites your central nervous system. It's fired up.
I like lavender.
Cinnamon. I'm into cinnamon.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't know what the facts are. I'm not a fucking biologist. This guy's he's a tenured professor at the University of California, Berkeley. Can't get funding for anything. He's done rock solid research on cancer. He's a really interesting guy.
Yeah.
But all the other AIDS researchers denounce him. Everyone else that's involved in HIV, and they might be right. They very well could be right. I don't know if he's right or he's wrong. It seems to me more likely that he's wrong because no one has come forward like legitimately on his side in terms of scientific research.
Based on what you're saying, from what I hear, I'm like my inclination is sounds like he may be wrong. But here's the thing: I'm not offended that you brought it up.
He's a fucking biologist.
Yeah.
You know.
But that's what's crazy about it. That's why I can't think of any shows on the other, let's say center, right, other side of the political spectrum where they wouldn't be offended by that. Like you said, you get so much crap. Maybe he's wrong. From everything I know about HIV and AIDS, seems as though he's wrong.
I don't know enough to say he's wrong, but I've heard enough people that know enough that say he's wrong that I believe them. But people are sending me messages, blood's on your hands and this and that. I'm like, if you went out and had unprotected butt sex after listening to the Joe Rogan Experience, you deserve what's coming.
Yeah.
Okay? If you listen to me and you're like, that's it, Peter Duesberg is right, send it in.
Rex butt is going.
Come on, man.
Jackpot.
Come on.
Checkmate.
You can't demonize conversations. And I don't know enough about the subject, but I listened to that guy's take on it, and it's fuel for thought. You know, I don't think he's right. I don't. But I've talked to a lot of people that I don't think are right. I've talked to some crazy fucking people on this show, and I think we've got to be able to have conversations. You have to.
Well, I mean, we might agree on 60% of things, maybe 50. Maybe it's somewhere between 40 and 70. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
It should be okay.
It should be totally fine. And that's the thing when we do, the Change My Mind segments, most time people, it's pretty amicable, and then you just get someone who comes up and wants to commit assault.
Right.
The Trigglypuffs. And it's like, I think a big skill, and we've kind of had to learn this, because NotGay Jared knows, when we first had guests, if it was a guest who I disagreed with, I was like, listen, I will not edit you. It will not be taken out of context. But I would sit down for 3 hours with them because they would be like, don't cut me off. And you realize they're just repeating themselves.
Right.
So finding the balance of seeing there are a lot of people out there now who are open to hearing these points of view, who are open to hearing these ideas, being able to identify them, and then being able to identify the people who are so bought in they won't even listen. You need to make an example of them for the people you can convince.
Right.
And understanding the two different kinds of people, the Trigglypuffs versus the, Jordan Peterson, who probably never saw himself as even political at all until he came out and said something that would seem to be so benign and cause an uproar. I think being able to identify those two, it's not so much just about left and right, who can hear, who won't, and how to handle them.
Right. And why? Why can't you hear? Can you not hear because it interferes with your ideology, or can you not hear because what they're saying is illogical? Like, which one is it? Is it? Are you honestly listening to what they're saying, and can you give factual refute? Can you give some sort of a factual refute of this, or is it just doesn't jive with your view of the world? You have some rock solid view of the world that you're not willing to look at any other perspectives.
Well, because that's the undercover thing with NotGay Jared. By the way, Balls of Steel doing this.
Yeah, let's talk about that one, because we got video of that one too. You went undercover with Antifa, and that one was disturbing to me, because first of all, you look like you slide right in like a glove, buddy. Like,
I was almost matching the guy when I got there. Guy, gal, we don't know. And I thought our costume wardrobe lady had actually just stolen his clothes, because it was almost identical to what he was wearing.
Isn't it funny, though, that when you're a slender man, like, people assume immediately you're left wing?
Oh, yeah. I can get away with so much crap.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Well, like, what is it about slender people? There's something there, right? Like, what is it about slender people that are almost always left wing?
Weakness.
Whoa. You think so?
Sorry.
Could be. But here's the thing.
The same reason they see the American flag as right wing. They see this, you might as well be the Third Reich. Did I say Third Reich? I don't even know what it is.
Yeah, you said it. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't
Iron
know what
Mountain
it is.
Designs. Check them out on
that is really.
Instagram.
I was going to say it's actually really nice.
Veteran owned.
Is that steel?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Guy makes them.
That's it. I can usually tell when someone's approaching us if they're friendly or foe by their posture and their body size. The guy walks in, your body size. I'm like, oh, that's probably a friendly.
Friendly.
A queer-looking 140-pound man like myself approaches. I'm like, we got to get out of Dodge. He has a shank or a screwdriver.
But the thing is, I had done.
He was passing it out.
I had done so many of these undercover things.
Shotguns an hour ago. I know it.
You didn't want to go because I was like, I had done too many, and now I get made every time I go out. After you dress as a tranny and you interview Wendy Davis, my wig flies off. She still goes along with it. I'm on every message board now. I'm like, Jared, you got to go in there.
On a technical level, I also didn't want to pull off a SEAL Team 6 mission between a Wednesday and Friday show. So
it's true, but what happened is then when you were in, you wanted to go back.
It's true. I was juiced.
How did it get?
Psyched.
Explain to me how it got set up, how you did it. Like what was the meeting?
Balls of steel.
Well, I mean, these things are much different than the Burlington, Vermont kind of gigs. I mean, that was a throwaway. This one took months of planning.
It was Reg, too.
To Reg especially to infiltrating the back end of Antifa.
Reg?
And Reg. We call him Reginald.
We have a guy who does research for us.
Don't make him mad.
I won't get into anything specific, but he is like a high-level professor.
Okay.
He has a 650-something pound squat. He's like Bane in real life. And brilliant. Yeah. He was the one who found the salon pedophile. That's why we broke that.
He was the one pedophile. That article?
Yeah. But we were the first ones to write about how he was currently actively a pedophile. He sent it to me within 10 minutes.
But
he's the man in the chair.
But you say currently wasn't a practicing pedophile, right?
No, he was. He talked about grooming and all that stuff, and we wrote about it. Yeah.
Really?
They doubled down on it too, didn't they? They came out and defended the guy.
Three more articles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, the point is Reg does brilliant, and that's
Didn't they remove those articles?
I don't know. Maybe they did. But they did like 2 or 3. But Reg is a brilliant researcher, and so at this point...
Explain that, though, because we're glossing over this for people that are just listening. Please explain what that was, like those articles.
Sorry, yeah, we're starting off with that. So Salon.com, what was their first article? I'm a pedophile, but I'm not a monster.
Yeah.
And it was talking about how, the way to deal with us is, again, not to stigmatize us. I'm like, listen, I'm sorry, at a certain point, I'm empathetic, but we send you to therapy. You still want to have sex with kids? We take you out of the village, we shoot you. We can't take that risk. Sorry, that's it. So he was like, I'm not a monster, and talked about how, his struggles with his family. I'm like, okay, you can kind of understand it. But then Reg did some research. We found all of his online message board, his pseudonyms, his usernames, and coded language about grooming. Grooming meaning like you're grooming kids online. So we found all of it, and we released an article on it. And then Salon released another article where he responded and didn't call us up by name, but was like, my week in the right-wing hate sphere. And they ran it on Salon, like, we're the bad guys because we found out that you're grooming children. And they released a few, and we just realized, okay, this is the thing, kind of like hormone blockers for kids. Salon's cool with an active pedophile. Let's move on now. We're not going to do it. There's no more convincing to be done here. So Reg was the one who found that, and Reg was the one who infiltrated a lot of the Antifa groups. That's not his real name, but he has so many. This guy is just brilliant. So he'd been doing research on the back end upon request and was so good. So we had all this research. We knew who these people were. We kind of knew what they were planning with Ben Shapiro going into Utah. As a matter of fact, we were going to go to Berkeley right before that, but then last minute we found out that they weren't going to do it because we know where they meet. We were on their cryptic apps where they would text you. So it's these apps that you would download. Like, I don't know if are we allowed to say that? I don't know.
I think, yeah.
The FBI came to us for information afterwards. Like, oh yeah, we were tracking these people. There were arrests made. Because
of your undercover thing.
Well, arrests made on the people who were seen undercover.
The same people.
So they committed crimes again later that day and were arrested. So the same person who handed him a shank later that day assaulted someone and was arrested.
So Reg gets you the information, and then how do you make contact with these people?
We were part of their Facebook grouping, so we found out where they wanted to meet, when and where, and we showed up to campus, and I walk in as Jason, Antifa person, new to the organization, say I want to be involved.
Blue contacts and a beanie. That's all it takes.
You put blue contacts on?
Yeah, blue contacts.
Yeah. Why blue contacts?
I don't, just
because we're on a budget. We need a disguise.
But why do you need a disguise? You didn't think you could slip? You thought people would recognize you from the show?
We could have been on their radar. Yeah. We don't know. Okay. They tried to find us in Austin. Antifa did.
Yeah, they were handing out posters. We taped an interview with Tim Kennedy, and they were passing out flyers.
Was that when you got waterboarded?
No, that was another time. And I would much rather be waterboarded. Yeah, he did. That was no joke. And I'd rather do that than the CNN 16-hour live stream. That's not a joke. I'd rather be waterboarded But anyway,
Twice.
sorry, getting off topic. But go ahead.
Yeah, so we show up at this coffee house. They're making Starbucks on campus. Where he...
Antifa meets at Starbucks.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
So,
find it funny.
so I found him, met up. He gives me the cryptic messaging app.
Was it a he or she? Did you find out?
We don't know. I was sure it was a he because it was a wedding band and
Let's
a
call her
chick showed
Zur.
up. Zur. Zur sitting there with his wedding band, iPhone 7, and his broad on the side, gives me the app and says, we'll see you tomorrow. So I say, okay, see you then. And gives me full communication. They did roll call. And it's okay, everyone roll call. We've got Jason in the group.
Sound
And it's
off!
Like Firebird.
What was the
And,
funny one? Firebird.
Well, it went down to like all these like Firebird and Rogue 2 and
Rogue
and
2.
Flamethrower 9, and then there was Will.
There's Will.
Will, that
We
was his real
found
name.
Big
so
Will Ferrell fan.
Yeah, we found him immediately.
No,
'cause
no,
he
we
used to
found him so swiftly. Will was so easy to find.
How could you figure out who Will was?
Well, because the phone numbers are also listed.
We have
It's a
their
cryptic
phone
messaging
numbers.
app
my
that
God.
doesn't allow you to take screenshots, but it turns out if you have another phone, you could take a photo
Duh.
of your screen.
Just use a physical camera.
It
Who'd have
doesn't.
thought?
Duh.
They didn't seem to work out this kink in the plans.
Well, that
but,
was like the Snapchat thing when people were sending dick pics. Like, hey,
Yeah.
hey, no one's gonna see it. No one's gonna see it.
Well, you can't take screenshots. It just informs the other person, which is so much worse to know
Right.
someone actually took it. It's like
Yeah.
that just makes it worse for everybody.
yeah, but you can also take a
I'd rather not
photo
know.
of it with another camera, like you said. So anyway,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So go ahead. So all these people are role playing. They're in Dungeons and Dragons.
Exactly. So we go back to our hotel, get ready for the next day, and show up on campus where they're supposed to meet up and get
And
together.
you are nervous as hell at this point.
I saw
Because he's like, I don't want to do this.
When
He's
should
like,
we play?
I
some
was
of
more
this?
nervous the day before because I just didn't know what I was walking
Do
into.
you want to play? How
Starbucks.
short is the clip? You want to play it first?
They're
And then,
they're all like 30 seconds.
Okay,
It's
let's
about
play
to.
some.
Do you
It's
have them?
from Antifa.
From PS4, which one do you want me to start with?
I don't know, find one.
Okay.
So
he's
roll the
ordering your
dice.
producer around.
So these people,
Makes a difference to me.
they were openly advocating violence, and they were offering to give you a gun.
Not at first.
No,
not
at
at first.
Well,
Not at first.
That's why I
But
say I wanted to,
ultimately.
because you
Yeah.
actually said the funny part before. You said we got into a fight, and you said this is not in my job description, and I said it is exactly in your job description. You have to go do this right
my
now.
God.
And we had security and everything, but I remember you were really. And then after the clips you'll see, after they gave you the knife, and we were filing out reports with the cops. At that point, he goes, "Oh, I'm going to go back in. I think I can really mess with them." Like, no, you can't. They just handed you a prison shank and told you they had a sawed-off shotgun. You can't go back in there. So once he was in it, we had to rein him back. It was like a little
True, they
Wolverine.
popped
Yeah,
the collar a
crazy.
couple times.
You popped your collar. You got a little crazy. You got a little crazy. Okay, so let's play this.
Okay, so this is my meeting at Starbucks. There,
Yeah, you can tell us if
that
that's a
gal.
guy.
It's almost like product placement.
You think
there.
it's a guy?
This is a guy. I
Okay.
think.
All right, play it.
Plain clothes and
This is
hard tactics and
telling you how to show up.
Hard tactic.
because they're not prepared for what we're planning.
They're not prepared for what we're planning. I have a toolbox full of shit.
I have,
Did you bring your
like,
gun?
on the border between just a regular rifle and an assault
I have like
weapon
on the
and
board a regular rifle, and a assault
sawed-off
weapon,
style shotgun.
and a sawed-off style
But
shotgun.
I've got a handgun. Yeah,
That's a girl.
Two AKs coming.
Yeah, I thought so when I showed up to this one, but you know,
Man, maybe
She
the
likes to-
hands.
She
I
likes to
think the
play the
next clip,
field.
Jamie, is the one where they handed Jared. Was it an ice pick? You said, or what was it?
no,
Was
it
a
was
screwdriver.
It was an ice
2
pick. It was a sharp pointy end, but it was like a screwdriver
Said
handle.
2 AKs coming. Okay, so here it is.
I think they were lying though. But
This is
So they're
She's
giving
the
you
one
a
that's
knife.
arrested.
Military surplus store, the Navy surplus
Yeah,
store, whatever.
and telling me how I can procure my own K bars.
30, 40
There we go.
bucks. And it's just a combat knife. It's a fixed blade, 5 inches or so, but it's just you strap it on your leg. And
K bar, sponsor of Antifa now, by the way.
You have to really stab him.
yeah,
Really
Yeah,
stab
his
him.
last
That
stitch
shit
is
hits the
gonna be
fan.
Blue super.
Blur him down here.
Okay, so what they were doing is, first of all, that person never stabbed anybody in their fucking life, right? So these are dorks. And what they're doing is they're deciding now they're going to take action. And they're going to enlist the aid of a bunch of other people. Did you think at that point in time, like maybe these people are looking for suckers that are willing to do fucked up shit for them? 'Cause
Oh, I think-
she ain't stabbing anybody.
I absolutely think so. And when I showed up, there was like 4 of them when I got there. They were all running late. The socialists were all running late.
yeah. They all showed up late.
Not a single one.
I had to get
Showtime.
up.
And one of them actually said, sweetheart there, honeybee, was like, yeah, that's the beauty of being unemployed. I can just show up on time anywhere I want. I'm like, there is a silver lining, I guess.
She
But
was just eating.
she was eating.
And she was still late.
Oh, she was late. So so I get there, and I'm thinking, okay, this is a bust. This is a really sad group of people because I don't know about the weapons at this point. I just see, I'm expecting like 40s guys in the what they call black bloc, all black goggles, everything, and it just looks like a really sad social club. So I get there, sit down for a bit, and like 3 minutes in, they start passing me stuff, telling me everything you just saw, and I'm thinking, oh my Lord, this is not. I need to get out.
Yeah.
I need to get out.
Meanwhile, I'm on the other side of the school because Ben Shapiro is speaking. So I'm on the other side of the school, and Ben Shapiro's there, so there are a lot of fans. So I'm kind of taking pictures, and I got spotted. So I'm taking pictures. My phone's vibrating. I'm like, hold on a second, let me just shut off my phone. Taking pictures, and I see it, and Jared's like, they're handing me knives. What do I do? What do I do? Like, oh my God, I gotta go.
You're like, quick, get out. I'm like, okay, I need to fast. I need to think quick. Yeah. So I told him I had to take a dump. And I just left.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
This is out.
That was hilarious.
And
well, the crazy thing about that is that you bring us the footage. So there are cops right there. So we tell the cops, because I'm like, we've got to get him through this, whatever it is, quad or whatever is there.
Because they're talking about luring
this is the guy right here.
Too.
Yeah, this is the guy right here. I think. Oh, yeah. Hold on. It's not playing.
It's got
corrupted the file.
Oh, here goes.
President's circle, and they were handing out sharp objects to stab people with. Said they had someone come in with an AK.
This guy works for local
Why
news
did it take 2 late-night hosts, comedians, to find this out?
You know what? I wish you guys luck.
Yes, you just saw correctly. Even being shown the footage in the presence of police officers to confirm authenticity, they walked away. Also, I should note, this is Dan Harris from Nightline.
He was on my
ABC
podcast 2 weeks ago.
He knew about the footage and the whole story, too.
I
offered it to him and asked for
He
his card.
he gave us a brief spot when they actually put together weeks later after our video came out, so he had to acknowledge it. But he put together a small little brief montage of our video that took place on his little
it's
profile.
Like mostly
of Ben.
peaceful event, though not without some controversy. So what happens is, to me, what's so crazy is like, again, I offered it to the local guy.
Right.
People who do news, April O'Neil, they want the exclusive. I said, hey man, do you want this, like to run this? Because he worked for ABC or local Fox or something. And he's doing Instagram videos with 5, followers, and he sees, a heart go up on his screen. So I'm looking at him I'm like, listen man, do you want this? And he goes, what is it? So I go, well, hold on, we tell him exactly what we had, and we show him the cryptic app, and I'm like, hold on a second, here are the police. So we're showing it to him, and he walks away. I'm like, he's like, well, I got to do my job. I'm like, this isn't a part of your job. This isn't a part. He didn't think it was, and that to me was insane. We weren't looking for necessarily a scoop.
Yeah, the anti-Trump
we just wanted to get
guys
this as wide as possible.
They had a rhyme going down the street with their protest, so he had to get to better things.
That's what he did. He was doing Instagram. Oh, you'll see people peacefully protesting, and like hold up his Instagram.
So,
hey, ho, ho, Donald Trump sucks.
Do you think that he just didn't have authority, that he was trying to...
Didn't fit the narrative. Same thing with the guy from Nightline. Didn't fit.
So the narrative was the anti-Trump protesters, which is what people were tuning into the news for. It wasn't Antifa
peaceful.
being...
It was peaceful.
Right.
There were snipers on the rooftops for that little Jew, Ben Shapiro. Think about that.
This was, what, a week? 2 weeks after Berkeley?
He's a smarmy little bastard. I love him. But he's like, I could see how he pisses people off, but he's brilliant.
He's a very, very smart guy.
He was my first lawyer. He negotiated my contracts. He wasn't even an entertainment lawyer. I said, Ben, you got a lot of vowels in your last name, and I have a contract with money at play. Can you help me? And I think I can do it. And that's how we became friends. I was 18.
That's hilarious.
But this is the heat of the Antifa fight last summer, right after Berkeley. They were really specifically about Antifa trying to downplay the violence and the undercurrent that
they
steam
to
they
have
picked up.
given that up. They seem to have accepted the fact that there's a lot of violence.
Some of them.
But I think this. I hate not to toot our own horn, but I think things like this. That got 15 million plays on Facebook and a few million on YouTube. And the reason we got more mileage is because the news refused to cover it. And then was it the dean? Someone there, some student activities advisor, released an official statement saying nothing happened, and so we called him. So that was a follow-up video where we prank called him.
I remember listening to that.
We started with the Washington, we made up something, Washington Herald or something. So he was like,
it was a really stupid name. I can't remember what it was.
And we asked who made the statement that this was entirely peaceful, because Honeybee...
He said he was speaking on behalf of the police, but never actually quoted a name. So we figured out pretty quickly he was speaking on behalf of himself.
And he was
his
liberal.
opinion.
We found out he was actually a delegate or he was actually officially involved with
ties
the
to Clinton,
state
stuff like
Democratic.
that.
Yeah, ties to Clinton. He was a Clinton staffer.
Yeah.
The support of Antifa, this open support of it, is very confusing. It's like, do you know this? You got professors hitting people in the head with bike locks. This is not.
It sounds absurd, but it's true.
It's not a wise group. This is not a smartly organized refutal of some crazy power structure. These are this is chaos.
Right.
And to your question earlier,
Smart.
yeah, I do think they were. I think they prey on losers of society to become part of. I mean, they were so quick to welcome me in because they need the numbers and they're willing to accept anybody. There was no filtration system.
I got to say that if that was a real faction of that's the saddest fucking faction that they have.
It doesn't matter.
Well,
a couple AKs and you're as
Right.
bad as anybody.
Tell him later that Honeybee got arrested.
For tasing a guy.
Tasing a guy. The same
She
taser.
tased somebody?
Tased some
Fairness,
guy.
I think.
Who'd she tase?
No, the guy sucker punched a different guy.
Something happened. There was a
Yeah.
dust up, but
Were
she
you
used a
calling her
taser.
She used a
guy
taser.
now? Are you misgendering?
No, God, I would never
Sorry,
do that.
it's very confusing.
I would never.
No, Honeybee was actually there.
It's not my character.
Honeybee was a late socialist. Got arrested.
For
Right.
tasing a dude.
And then, after jail, was texting you. Remember that?
Yeah,
What
she
was she
wanted her
saying?
knife back.
Oh my God! Did she know?
Because I
that you set
texted
her
him
up?
a picture. Because I texted him a picture of me sitting next to Shapiro, full get up, flipping them the bird.
You texted them a picture?
Yeah, in the encryption app. I said,
Oh my God!
I should have brought the phone. I
She was
should have brought the whole
she's
phone.
like,
Oh my
you bastard, give me
God.
the knife back. I'm going to go to the cops. We were like,
You bastard! Give me the knife
Sit
back.
next to Ben and just
I was giving thumbs up.
Oh my God! That's hilarious.
And we told them like when it was going up on YouTube, like keep an eye out tomorrow at 6 o'clock on YouTube.
So she gets arrested for tasing somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what happens? Now, no heat for her for all this video of her saying she's got a handgun and
we don't know.
AKs.
Can we say now? I was in a lot of phone calls with the FBI. I was on the premise with the FBI, and they knew that my footage was not terribly surprising to any of them because they were already on their radar.
But they did ask how you got in the cryptic app.
They did. They were picking my brain for how they function because they are organized to a certain extent. I mean, if they're as organized as the Berkeley faction or as any other faction that's caused trouble, who knows? But to some level, they are, and that's where the FBI used us to kind of help them.
What's what we were talking
figure that
about
out.
earlier? That my take on it is that if you're trying to suppress people that hardcore, and it's just a guy who's talking, and that guy turns out to be Ben Shapiro, and you're calling him a Nazi, like, do you see the
Most dangerous
fucking?
man, they call
Do you
him.
see the yarmulke on his head?
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro's a Nazi. Are you out of your mind? Like, this is you're so far gone that you're like, with every single one of these things, it diminishes the credibility of this whole movement. Like, the whole thing just seems preposterous. Like, you're calling everybody a Nazi. Even a Jewish guy with a yarmulke on, he's a Nazi because he's a white supremacist. How the fuck is he a white? You listen to what he's saying. He's not a white supremacist. He's a conservative. And if you don't think that he's correct, go debate him.
Well, it's probably because racist wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Calling him a bigot wasn't good enough. They just escalated to, okay, well, not to get your attention, and it escalates that way.
Yeah.
Well,
it
it's
goes to
like what
Nazi.
happened to Jordan Peterson and that
Sure.
with that woman who had recorded the conversation between the professors that were chastising her for showing a clip of Jordan Peterson discussing gender pronouns. And the professors equated him to Hitler. They literally equated Jordan Peterson to Hitler and Milo
Basically the
Yiannopoulos,
same
which is a
thing.
big spectrum. Milo Yiannopoulos, Hitler.
Well, not only that, Milo Yiannopoulos, Ben Shapiro. There are
Yeah.
no two people who hated each other
Right.
more.
Yeah,
You know what I
right.
mean? And there's like alt-writers, Milo Yiannopoulos and Ben Shapiro. I'm like, do you realize how much they despise each other?
2016, Ben Shapiro was the #1 recipient of anti-Semitic hate online. #1.
Doesn't surprise me.
I mean, that's how crazy it is to call him a Nazi.
I mean, he's super Jewish too.
I mean, he's as Jewish as it gets.
He's as Jewish as it gets. I don't even send him texts if we're getting near Saturday. I'm serious. He's like, you know, they do the shaving thing where you can use an electric trimmer on one port and a straight razor. I'm like, okay.
He's so logical in every other way. Like, wow, he's so hardcore with that. It's so strange. I'd love to talk to him about that.
About his Jewishness?
Yeah, just so hardcore with
Jewosity.
it. Jewosity.
Jewosity? Is that the...
I don't know.
But, Ben and I have been friends for a long, long time. And I think even when I was on the show, I was like, listen, I've never planned to be a debater. It just kind of was thrust upon me sometimes with people on the show. I think I'm a marginally intelligent person. Ben Shapiro is brilliant. It just kind of took a while for people to find him. I think on the show, I was like, yeah, Ben is the kind of guy, if you want to talk about this and really have someone who goes in the lion's den and he just doesn't care. He just does not care. He's not afraid of he wasn't afraid of Milo during that time when, listen, you have to take in consideration Ben Shapiro during this time, right? Ben Shapiro leaves Breitbart. They're smearing his name. He doesn't like, Steve Bannon. This is well known. Breitbart is really powerful. Steve Bannon is getting cozy with Donald Trump. Ben Shapiro can't stand Donald Trump. Milo Yiannopoulos is the most popular right-wing sort of commentator, and he's going after Ben. Like, there was a period where I'm sure it was pretty rough for him, and he still stuck to his guns.
Yeah.
You've got to respect that with a guy.
No, I like him. He's a very nice guy. I had him on the show, had a great time talking to him. I think he's a very nice guy, very smart guy.
Yeah.
I feel like there's something happening right now culturally. There's so many people that are freaking out because Donald Trump is the president, that everything is ramped up, and no one can be left-wing enough. And I think this is probably one of the reasons why someone would justify having an article like that pedophile thing on Salon.com, and why people just, it seems to be that, like, you can't be progressive enough. Like, everything is getting so over the top and so ridiculous that people are calling other progressives out for not being progressive enough, and they're eating their own.
The pussy hat thing. Have you heard about that?
Yes. The transgender community is very upset that you are if you are a white woman wearing a pussy hat, you are mocking people that are women that don't have pussies.
Specifically black women, because they're not always pink.
And black women,
No, it
because
is
the
always
black
pink.
women's.
Well, I mean, like
Maybe you've seen a couple, but don't say always, because that is just wrong.
I mean, internally.
Yeah, but you don't know. Who knows?
Okay, I'll give you that.
You're just taking guesses.
I spoke out of turn.
Some of them are dark. But the point is, like, that's how crazy the left wing has gotten. Like, that wearing a pink pussy hat is offensive because it's offensive to people who are women who have penises.
Yeah.
Literally. That's what they said. And people of color who also don't have pink pussies. Like, fuck you. Like, pink is obviously a universal color for women. You're wearing a hat. It's got cat ears. Get it?
Yeah.
Get it? It's not a vagina, you fuck. It's not like you have a goddamn vagina on your head.
kind of
And
is.
some people did.
Some people did.
There's a lot.
So yeah, they had some
Lots
they
of
had some
them
serious vaginas. We just didn't have the budget because Lansing was really, they were actually, like, I think it was Lansing, Michigan. One of the places had like a ban on the pussy hat. So we just wanted to
What?
show up with 50.
Wait a minute. What?
Yeah, there was one. I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't know if it was Lansing.
Someplace had a ban.
Someplace was like, we just actively discourage it. And we just wanted to show up with 50 guys who were like hardcore
Well,
feminists.
I'm against that. I'm against that. Now I'm on their side.
Well, we just wanted to show up with
pussy
50
hats.
people in pussy hats and be like, what? We didn't know.
But wait a minute.
And
But
the
why?
budget-
But
made
it's
all
a
the poor
cat.
socialists pay for new hats. They just bought them last year.
Right, and these
It's so
hats are just
sensitive.
cat hats. It's not like a vagina. It's a cat.
Well,
it's like
it's a
they have
double
cat
entendre.
ears. It is, but you can't have a double entendre publicly. You can't explain that to your kid. What's going on there, Dad? Oh, little fella, that's they like cats.
That's it.
How hard is that? But why are they screaming? You can't touch my pussy.
Eat your puberty blockers and shut up. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I remember when that happened. It was right after the Women's March, and you and I were talking about it. We were kind of talking. At that point, we were sort of analyzing the idea of pussy hat economics and the wage gap, and we're talking about this and why that wasn't necessarily true. Now, we're so beyond that. I just go, look, they're mad at their own hats. You know what I mean? And that's a joke for the night of the show. That's it.
That really is it. They're so crazy left wing, progressive, over the top, attacking each other that you can't wear a pussy hat anymore.
But who defends it is my point. Like, let's say
No one.
Anna Kasparian or Cenk or whoever. I'm just using them as an example. It would behoove them to go on air
Right,
and
mock
say,
that.
this is why the left loses, right? Because
Yeah.
now you're upset about the pussy hats and we made
Yeah.
instead, they go along with it.
Yeah.
No one is going
We really should have caught that early. You know, they got a point. They got a point.
Yeah, like, yeah, we should have caught. I understand it. You know, people who are. I mean, it's just like it's a cat, vagina.
But you can't make fun of anything. I mean, they're in this weird position where if it's a left wing thing, you can't make fun of it, even if it's like obviously ridiculous. You just ignore it. You ignore it and avoid it because to mock it would be to attack your own team, and that's what it feels like to me.
Their own
Doesn't
shrinking
it feel?
team.
This is totally just me kind of throwing this to the room, maybe to YouTube if it's banned. I'm just asking questions. Black Lives Matter, Antifa, the pussy. It's kind of all disappeared a little bit. If you think about it, think about the news. They're really not very active. It's been like a couple of months. You think of how exponentially volatile everything was.
Right.
Doesn't it seem like it's kind of
Here's
faded?
what I think it's faded because it's proof that it's not this huge grassroots movement. I think they ran out of budget. I think they spent it all.
Well, that was, I hate to say it, but we were talking about, remember the Women's March, and it was like, at that point, they were saying, the biggest march of all time. I said, watch the next one. The next one, we went to Denton, Texas. You couldn't find 40 people because they were paid to show up. It's like the SCIU, the Fight for 15. They are these leftist
Yeah, but
organizations.
that's Denton, Texas, and L.A. was giant.
No, the Women's March was huge everywhere. But the point is, they did a follow-up march, and there was no one. When you don't pay people to show up, and you're not knitting the hats and giving them out, no one shows up.
But where though? In Denton, Texas?
No,
maybe,
everywhere.
But in L.A., they weren't paying people.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
they were.
come on.
Oh,
man.
absolutely.
Wait a
Absolutely.
minute. You think they were paying? Was something like 900,000
500,000
people?
people downtown.
Yeah, there were a lot of
They
people.
give them $1 and have them spend all day.
I think what's
it's a $500,000 budget.
Everyone who works for a leftist think tank, everyone who works for a leftist nonprofit, everyone who works for the SEIU or is a part of the union, this now becomes a part of your job description to show up in solidarity and support them. It's the same reason they support Antifa, even though it's silly, and they support Black Lives Matter.
I don't think you're right about that.
Oh.
I think there's a lot of people that love to march. They love some sort of a cause. They think they're doing the right thing. They think they're out there protesting. They get excited about it. It's on a Saturday. I don't think any of these people are getting paid. These people are excited about it. They're out there. They're chanting and cheering. And this is what they want to stand proud and be solidified.
And 2 weeks later, none of them show up?
What do you mean?
There were many women's marches after that. The follow-up, nothing. Like you look at the Tea Party when it started.
You only have to do one. You don't have to keep going to all of them.
Oh, of course you do.
This is January 20th. That's 10 days ago.
This is the recent one.
Yeah, this is giant.
This is big, but it's like they do it once a year. They can gather their troops.
I think you're crazy.
No.
I don't think they
we've
pay
signed up for the
people.
Fight for 15.
What's that?
The SEIU. We're on all the mailing lists. So we're on all the mailing lists as to where these things meet and when. And
Fight for 15. What does that mean?
hashtag Fight for 15.
What does that mean?
That's the Fight for 15 minimum wage.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
McDonald's
all
and-
union
The
sponsored.
minimum wage thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same thing with the women's marches. Remember when we showed up and we asked them, the ones outside of the only people who were there were paid speakers.
Okay. Well, that's different. Okay, that's a different march, but I think the women's march is pretty legit. I think these people are doing it because they don't like having this guy in power. They wanted a woman. There's two things going on. One, they wanted a woman to be president. They thought a woman was going to be president, and then it was snatched from them. Snatched away. And
Start selling a hat.
And
Trademark
then,
that.
he's just a fucking crazy guy. Like, Donald Trump's a crazy guy.
But he's going to be a crazy guy the next month when you're doing another march or protest, but no one shows up.
They think somehow or another that it's going to have an impact. It doesn't. It does culturally, like people are aware of it, but it doesn't have any impact on him.
I don't think most of them even know
Did you
what
see
they
what
want.
he said?
Know what they want to impact on.
Find his tweet because it was goddamn hilarious.
About the women's march?
About what a wonderful day
Oh, yeah,
it
he
is for you
trolled
to be
it. He
out
trolled
there
it hardcore,
marching.
Yeah. Those are the moments where I
point
think
is
like maybe he is self-aware.
Well, he is,
Just
but
a
the point is,
little
like, you look at pro-life marches, he thinks hundreds of thousands of people, all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Here it is. Trump tweets in support of women's march. That's also protesting him. Go to the tweet.
What was it? I'm trying to remember.
Here's his tweet.
Beautiful weather all over the great country.
That's a
Great
good
day for
impression.
march.
Go ahead.
Get out there now to celebrate the historic milestones and unprecedented economic success and wealth creation that has taken place over the last 12 months. Lowest female unemployment in 18 years.
Come on. That's fucking funny, man. I don't give a shit what you say.
209,000.
I don't care if you're a supporter or if you're a person who appreciates comedy. That's fucking strong trolling right there. That's how many what's her name? Trolley Puff? What's her name? Trolley Puff. You know how many of them were sitting
Just
in front
died.
of the computer just fucking screaming? How many
The loudest 5
holes
seconds
got
of their life.
punched into laptops? People are angry at that. That's hilarious.
Well, we went to think about the march or the protest we went to in Grand Rapids, the socialist march. We
Yeah, that was really
infiltrated.
marketed as being really big.
Could you
Well,
imagine
there's
the
marketed,
balls?
but to your point that they were pissed off that these students who were like a lot of people just there for the movement were pissed off that the union people didn't show up, and they're supposed to come in the busloads, the union workers, they didn't show
The only
up.
people who showed up were the people paid by the organization. And that's one thing we found. So like the Utah Antifa. And the reason we say this is every time we show up, we found it actually from a leftist activist group. It's about, what did we average? 1/12 of the people who say they're interested in going.
Oh, yeah,
who actually
yeah,
show up.
yeah.
Something like 1/12. Like Reg came up with a number. He's like,
They like Facebook. They don't really like to show up.
Yeah. If 120 people say attending, it'll be like 8. And it is consistent to the point where we have to determine what events we go to or what is funny enough to cover. Because even if it'll say a few thousand people are going to a march, inevitably it's far, far less.
You have to run through the bullshit algorithms.
Yeah,
to
we've had so many where
determine
you
how
just
many
say,
are actually.
Does this depend on where you're talking about? Like if you're in Lansing, Michigan, maybe. But if you're in L.A., these marches are giant.
Well, you're in LA.
No, but
Yeah.
there are some. But for every one that you see that the media says, okay, we're going to, this is all hands on deck, there are
Right.
40, no one shows up. We had that even in New York City with the Fight for 15. And
That
we
makes sense, though. I mean, how many times can you get people to march?
Well, not even march. Show up for any protest.
Right.
You know,
how many
it's like-
times you can get people to protest? I mean, you can only get a few of those out of a person in a year. You know,
I disagree.
You think people are just down to do it all the time?
The Tea Party thing was hundreds of thousands, like every other month, like clockwork, and then they won an election.
That's different, though.
But why?
The Hawaii J20 group.
Oh yeah, the Hawaii. That was another thing we got
What's
kicked
that?
out of. The Hawaii G20 group.
J20.
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 I don't know. It was an undercover thing. We got kicked out. Not much.
Hawaii J20.
Was it J20?
It's called J20. I don't know why.
I don't know.
What's
I don't know
it
what
about?
it's for.
What was it?
It's
It
like
was about
socialist and stuff like that,
socialist
and-
immigration.
And resist Trump movement and hashtags and.
Do you imagine the balls it takes to beat Trump? You got literally 1 million people out there protesting, and you make a tweet like that.
It's pretty funny.
Pretty funny.
It's fucking balls.
Oh yeah, you got to give him that.
You gotta give him.
He's
that.
got to set on
whether
him
you
for that.
agree with him or not. Just take that away. Take all that away, and just look at what he just did there.
And you got to wonder, like, if Churchill had Twitter,
oh yeah.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
would it be this? Is it just that he has the tools now?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, this is unprecedented. There's never been. I mean, not only that, like he's got a style. Like sad, like this style of saying things and then writing sad and then attacking people. Like, who the fuck has ever been the president and has personally attacked Lion Ted, Crooked Hillary?
Yeah.
I mean, what does he call Sloppy Steve Bannon?
Is that what he calls him now?
Yeah, he calls him Sloppy
It's not
Steve.
even just political people either. I mean, just a
give
couple
a
days ago, he
fuck.
went after somebody, some rapper or something. I can't
Jay-Z.
remember. Was it Jay-Z he went after?
Yeah, Jay-Z was talking about us. He goes, Jay-Z apparently doesn't understand that the lowest unemployment rate for blacks ever is going on right now.
Because that really affects Jay-Z a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He knows a lot of poor black people.
What's that?
Why hasn't he responded to Eminem? He responds to Jay-Z, but not
Eminem's
Eminem.
too vicious and he's white.
I think
that was the worst.
That's another moment where I think he might
I've ever
be
seen in my life.
self-aware enough.
That was like so prefab when we were like, oh man, you just got burned. We actually did a sketch with Owen Benjamin doing the Eminem thing. It was
Well,
like
yeah.
a Jewish executive writing his stuff like, it's gonna kill kid. Call the president a bitch.
Yeah, I felt like it could have been better.
But it pissed Eminem off more that he didn't respond.
Right.
Yeah.
Which
Probably-
another moment you got like maybe he is self-aware. Maybe he knows what's
Because he said he had the next. He's like
lights maybe are.
He was
on.
like Macaulay
Somebody's home.
Culkin when the criminals were coming to his house. He was like, if Donald Trump responds, I'll be ready. And Donald
Yeah.
Trump was like, okay.
Yeah, good luck.
That was it.
I don't care.
And you know, Eminem had like
Yeah.
already had his next cipher written. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah, I don't know. Like the pauses and everything were fake. It's like, hold up, wait a minute. Like, oh, come on.
It's like a comic who like, I'm going to take suggestions from the audience. Oh, it's McDonald's, and you're a
Right.
nerd. Like it's like, well, you know, you've done this act 50 times.
yeah.
It was like a stand back when you don't mic the audience. You ever watch one of those? You're like, that this doesn't work. There's a big long pause, and but this was intentional. He had time to post production.
My favorite
fix
part
things.
was how he's got a bunch of black people sitting around watching him.
Yeah,
That's my favorite part.
I know.
They're all sitting around watching, and he's doing all the talking. Like, what is,
And he's not buddies with all of them. He wants you to think that they came out straight out of Central Casting.
you think?
Some of them. I think some of them.
Were they paid by the same people that paid the women to march?
Yeah, I think they were paid by the SEIU.
Soros.
I'm not fine for
Soros.
15. I'm sitting through a shitty cipher. Okay.
That's one of the best moments ever. When Alex Jones got high on the podcast, and then it came up during his divorce hearing. He goes, I only smoke marijuana once a year to find out if George Soros is making it stronger. They're doing something to the weed. I got to test it for potency. Soros. Imagine Soros sitting there in his fucking castle somewhere. Jack up the potency in the weed. Like as if he makes
More
the call.
THC. That is funny.
These kids aren't getting high enough.
Did he actually say that?
Call Murdoch. Tell him checkmate.
He not only said that, he couldn't remember his kids' teachers' names. So he said, well, I had a big bowl of chili today. I can't remember. That's what he said. I have a big bowl of chili. I can't remember.
Has he been on the show since then?
No.
It's too much of a liability with the
No,
court
I'd have him
proceedings.
on. I'd have him on.
I just wonder for him if his
No,
lawyers are
he
like,
wants
be
to be
careful.
on. He just hasn't been in L.A. He asked me to do his show in Austin, and I'm sorry, Alex, I couldn't do it. I was in and out. I was in like 2 hours before my shows. I had 2 shows that night, and I had to fly out at 7 a.m. in the next day.
Well, he's a very hospitable guy.
I like
Well,
him.
he's aggressively hospitable because he tried to get us. He left me a voicemail when you're all sitting, and you were like, "Hey, Jared, come on, tell the crowd, don't be a pussy. Just right down the street. Come on."
Yeah. Antifa was just chasing us around.
get out of
Tim,
here.
They were like, if you find this guy, punch him and let us know. We had people snapping pictures of us. And so we got to go. This is when we did, we were undercover at South by Southwest.
Yeah.
And we get a voicemail like, I just don't understand why we have studios here and we can protect you. And we're just like, you don't understand. We are halfway to Waco. We're out of town. It's like, tell Crowder to not be a pussy. We'll protect. He was really trying to be very hospitable, but we were just trying to get out of town.
I got more hate from that episode, too. But also, I was like, look, don't you see why I love him? Like, you see him when he's drunk and stoned, and we're having a great time. He's talking about interdimensional child molesters. You know, he was crazy.
That's great television.
He's crazy.
That's great television.
Like, Alex Jones is a fun guy.
Yeah.
You know, and look, I don't believe everything he believes. He believes Sandy Hook was fake. You know, I think
it's a rough one.
It's a rough one. I think he's dropped that since then, and he tries to come up with some caveats or something like that, or some things when we're not shown that we're real, or
new evidence has come to my attention.
I don't know what the fuck that was all about. That I've heard that one from a few careless people. I'm like, man, you can't say that.
Well, then there was the Vegas thing, was a conspiracy.
That's a lot of people think that one. That's a weird one.
But here's where nothing's come up since then. That is weird.
Here's the Vegas one. Here's what's weird about the Vegas one. It seems like there's differing opinions on timelines. There's differing stories, rather, on timelines. There's possibility that someone may have aided him.
Right.
The guy was a fucking evil cunt. He covered his tracks. I mean, it's almost like he wanted people to go crazy. Search warrant document shows second person of interest after Las Vegas shooting.
What was this?
That's in the last couple of hours. A
Really?
judge unsealed documents, and a guy's named Douglas Haig or something popped up.
Okay, well, there you go.
That's interesting.
So that makes sense.
Las Vegas Review. I mean, who else is reporting this? It makes me
everywhere.
Is it everywhere? Okay.
Yeah. So I would imagine that what's going on is there's probably somebody that helped him get the guns and helped him move them up into the room or something along those lines.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there were people saying like the bodies were fake and that kind of stuff.
They're out of their mind. I know somebody who got shot there.
Yeah.
I know somebody who got shot there. And one of the girls who was a ring card girl was there while it happened, and she escaped narrowly with her life while people were dropping right in front of her as she was running. Her name's Ashley. As she was running, people were getting shot right in front of her. Dan Bilzerian was there. Dan told me he saw a lady's head get blown off.
That's right. He did.
He said a lady's head exploded right in front of him.
Yeah. That's where let's say there's a conspiracy, right? Let's say let's say this is a second person helped him. Let's even say there's a second shooter.
Could have been.
It doesn't undo the horror.
Right.
It doesn't mean there was some conspiracy necessarily to cover up a second shooter. Maybe there's new information that's come to light, and there's often a grain of truth sometimes, and then people go, therefore, and
right.
It just
someone was trying to tell me what they reported shooters at all these other casinos, but then the news never covered it. I go, no, you don't understand. When there's 50 people that get murdered by a guy who's shooting out of a fucking Mandalay Bay window, you're going to have chaos. And when you have chaos, people run into casinos, there's a shooter. They'll run into Circus, they'll run into MGM, they'll scream, there's a shooter. People get on the phone, they call security. There's a shooter at the MGM. Doesn't mean there's a shooter at the MGM. It means there's chaos.
Right.
And you get a lot of bad information.
Place with a lot of echo, I'm sure, too. So in the middle of chaos, you don't know where it's coming from.
Dude.
Reflections and lights and echo.
Yeah. One of the girls that was at the UFC, she got her leg blown out because someone got shot and killed right in front of her, and the guy fell on her leg and it blew her ACL out. Yeah.
One of the fighters from the UFC?
No. One of the girls who was at the event. And then Dana White got a bunch of people that got shot and everything, and Dana White's the best. And he brought these people to the event, and it's like, we did an event that week, man. Yeah. I did a comedy show that week.
Yeah.
I did a comedy show at the Mirage that Friday. I donated all the money to the Vegas Victims Fund, but it was just like, it was weird. The whole thing was weird.
Yeah, that is, and it is weird too that, it's like, okay, a country music festival.
Yeah, exactly. Those are right-wing people.
I mean, so I'm not saying this is a left-wing extremist, but it is weird that we didn't really hear a whole lot after that.
This guy didn't give a fuck who he was killing. He wasn't trying to kill country music people. He did this at other music events too, where he showed up and scanned it and got hotel rooms and overlooked the exact same sort of a scenario. He was plotting this. He just wanted to kill a bunch of people and then kill himself. He said... And by the way, here's another guy that was on some sort of psych medication. Yeah. And this is a constant in these mass shooters. And this is one of the things that gets ignored. And it should be fucking front and center in everybody's mind. They should be thinking, what are we doing to people by giving them these pills? What the fuck are we doing?
What was he on, though? Wasn't it just like Xanax or something?
He was on anti-anxiety medication, which has, by the way, it's the same kind of shit that Chris Cornell was on when he hung himself. That anti-anxiety medication is no joke. And who knows what kind of a weird adverse reaction you're going to have to that stuff.
Oh, yeah. People react. I mean, they do the genetic testing now, and I've done that for, I don't know if you've done that. Like now they do it as a consumer thing, 23andMe, I think.
Right, yeah.
But my doctor actually did genetic testing where we did it in the office to check, for predispositions towards diseases, and also you can check to see which medications you might have negative interactions with. And they found out for me there were certain painkillers that would be really bad that I wouldn't process super effectively, and then some that would work. Same thing as far as even like I think it was Celebrex would have been worse for me to take than Advil. So things like that, like this actually works better with your body chemistry.
Oh, wow.
And then when you get to psychotropic medication, I mean, think about it. Like I had negative interactions with a list of whatever antidepressants were on there, like do not take. There was a green column, yellow column, red column. And most people don't know. And it's not entirely accurate, but they're saying that it's increasing the efficacy of medication by like 50%, using this as a guideline.
That's fascinating. Yeah. And, and by the way, that guy's whole family is fucking crazy. That guy's dad was a serial bank robber. The guy's brother got busted for child pornography. That's what Whitney Cummings brought up the other day. She thought it was the shooter. It's actually his brother. I remembered after the fact.
They found some on his computer, too, apparently.
Did they?
Yeah.
Damn. The whole family's fucking kids.
Look, the shooter?
Yes.
Child pornography?
Yeah.
One of the laptops that was in the room, one of the 5 laptops had apparently something.
Maybe borrowed it from his brother.
That's his excuse.
Yeah.
Guarantee you that's what he told the cops.
Right before he shot himself.
Well,
apparently someone fired a gun in the room besides him, too. Who the fuck knows?
Well, that was all in the room service bill. That was something that there were a lot of conspiracies. And that's like an example where I think people said no one had been to the room for a long time. And then there was a room service bill that said someone had been to the room service. And then it looked like, I think by the amount of food, that there were possibly 2 people in the room. I'm like, I've known fat people who go to the drive-thru and order 2 Diet Cokes because it makes them feel less guilty.
Check to see how much I eat.
Your room service bill?
Dude, I'll go to the gym and then I'll order room service and people are like, how many people? I'm like, 1. They're like, are you sure? I'm like, bring it up, bitch. I order 2 entrees all the time.
Yeah. Well, because usually, especially too, if you're getting you want 2 times the meat or you want 2 times the protein.
if I'm lifting, I fucking get hungry, man. I just go crazy.
Mark Ripito ordering double meat that one time we went out with him.
Oh my gosh, he was just an animal. But
double meat.
Double meat.
Double meat.
Just double the meat.
Yeah,
it's like we don't do that. Like figure it out.
He's a strength trainer and he's also a scientist. And he wrote Starting Strengths. And he just we were somewhere and he just asked the server.
Yeah, you want double the brisket?
He goes, please double the meat. She goes, well, so you want $1 more? You want $2 more? He's, figure it out. That was it.
That's not a good thing to say to someone who's handling your food.
No, probably not.
Figure this out, bitch.
But the room service bill, that was something where I read it and I was going, oh, that's curious, right? The room service bill.
Yeah.
That's my point, is with the kernel of truth of some of these conspiracies. But people, they go, hold on a second, the room service bill has 2 tuna fish sandwiches and 1 steak tartare, therefore the Jews. It's like, well, hold on a second.
Right.
You're making a huge leap. And it makes it hard. Like there's a plus side to new media, which we talk about this all the time. We feel a lot of responsibility, especially being more of an entertainment show, where it's great because you can do this show and you don't have the same kind of time constraints and you can talk about things authentically as long as, for the YouTube stuff, they allow us to. But on the flip side is anyone can get information out there and there are people willing to capitalize on that and proactively lie.
Right.
And so, I get it. That's a problem, but the solution is not to have a bunch of people in Silicon Valley determining what's right.
Well, I mean, it's just like those flat earth fucks. You can make a video on anything. I mean, if you want to make a video, and if it's compelling, the same flat earth guy, he's got a video on dinosaurs not being real, nuclear bombs being fake, satellites being fake, jiu-jitsu doesn't work, Wing Chun is the shit.
Well,
Fucking mind, this guy. And people ignore that. They ignore that and just like, yeah, but this flat earth thing's pretty compelling, man. Got to look into it.
No, but a keto, I wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
If you came at me, I would not be there.
I'd sidestep you.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do. Just watch those on YouTube.
I post those on Instagram left and right.
Yeah.
With hashtag, if you just look up hashtag legit as fuck, that's my hashtag. I put up with all fake martial arts videos. I have I don't know how many of them I posted.
There's an Illuminati frame somewhere in there, and you're set.
I'm gonna stop posting them, man, because now when you repost them, my fucking Instagram's getting flagged. Like people are claiming them. Whether
the martial arts videos?
Yeah, even if they didn't make them, they can claim them and say it's theirs, and they can get it taken down from Facebook or Instagram.
Shake you down for a few bucks.
But the problem is they didn't necessarily film them, but if they say it's theirs, you have to prove it's not theirs. There's a lot of squirrely people out there when it comes to videos online.
Especially the people who are flat earth video claimers.
Well, one person tried to argue that with me, and the whole Mandela effect, that's another thing they're into. He's like, it's Berenstein Bears, not Berenstein Bears. Like he thought that was going to convince me. I'm going, what? Because it was Kazam, not Shazam, the Genie movie with Shaq. Like that's a big thing for them. This is the hill they die on. But the same person was a flat earther and said something like, okay, it's an easy test. The earth is spinning, right? If it's spinning 1,000 miles an hour, okay? You go up in a helicopter, don't move, go back down. If you're in the same place, it's a lie. You know it. And I said, hold on a second. Like, I'm not a scientist, but I know if I throw a baseball from the back of the bus, it's going to the front of the bus because we're starting at the same velocity. I mean, this is basic physics that you would learn in high school. So that's where, for me, I was like...
Mount St. Helens doesn't volcano this way.
Well, that's what they say, too. They're like, why doesn't it do this?
They just don't understand science. They don't understand physics. And they're just... They say things, and it's compelling to people. There's photos of the fucking glaciers in Antarctica. And they're like, look, it's the ice wall. Like, they really believe there's an ice wall.
It would be cool if there was.
Pretty badass.
It would save Donald Trump some money.
But imagine anybody keeping that secret. Imagine someone like somebody.
Why?
Well, Jamie's got Round Earth Shill T-shirts for sale at youngjamie.com.
Sold out right now.
Oh, do you?
Sold out, bitch.
But that's the question, though. Why? Right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
You're not we're not scientists, and there's a bunch that you could probably someone could come on and talk about the Earth's core and talk about the gravitational pull. That we'd be like, oh wow, that's really. I didn't know that. I feel like an idiot. But I can ask. Why would anyone want to convince me there's a flat Earth?
Yeah, or why would anybody want to convince you that it's round when it's actually flat?
Yeah, I don't understand.
Big round Earth is profiting too much.
People just love bullshit. They get off on it.
There's an audience for it.
Yeah,
100%.
But they enjoy it. I think they really enjoy bullshit. Like, I think people get excited about things that they can try to uncover. I think it's like some human thing. Like I think they're gonna attack us. You know, like there's like a secret sort of like not a secret, but like a thing in your head about uncovering secrets.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think it appeals to the contrarians too. Yes. They just like to piss people off. They like to dig.
Right. And a lot of them are just really uneducated. I mean, super uneducated. Like they just don't understand basic physics, like just a few things.
The martial arts thing is a good example with that because NotGay Jared is starting to do jiu-jitsu and
where are you training?
And that's where we're from.
Actually, the guy who does my security is a black belt.
Oh, okay.
And
cool.
so he's just starting to, we're going to have him come into this studio, do kind of some privates with them. This guy's he's a crazy, insanely strong dude. Just one of those guys who you look at and you go, oh, it doesn't matter if I trained my whole life, I wouldn't be that strong. You know, he walked in high school to a gym. Mark Ripeto's
Got to get some of that Buck Angel in
No.
there.
This guy walked in at 16, and I found this because it was corroborated by Mark Ripeto in Wichita Falls, Texas. When he found out this guy's
good old
name.
Mark.
Well, he said, wait, are you talking about so-and-so who's a friend of mine? Totally accidental.
Oh.
And he goes, that man came into my gym at 16 years old and accidentally snatched 270 pounds.
Jesus.
So this guy is, anyways, but he was a super nice guy. We a super nice guy, like, we church-going Christian, we always kind of joke about him where he's like, you can see there's something burning beneath the surface. He's like, I know it's not good, but I wanted to kill him. At one point he was doing security at SMU, and he was like, I could see him walking up to a guy. I'm like, no, hold on, stop. You can see just that little bit. Like
this guy with the shortest fuse.
But it's always amazing to me that people just deny it. And it's like, well, hold on a second. Show me, like you're talking about the flat earth thing. Aikido, show me one video ever in the history of mankind of Aikido winning a fight against a mixed martial arts guy. Or I had someone who believed that Steven Seagal was a legitimate fighter. I said, okay, that's a claim. One video ever in the history of Steven Seagal fighting an unwilling opponent.
You never got more crap than our Bruce
Lee video.
Oh, you shit on Bruce Lee.
No, we didn't. I said he was a good theorist and he was one of the early sort of mixed martial arts adopters. But the fact is, Bruce Lee would get killed by a decent flyweight in the UFC. And people are like, how dare you?
Well, that's true. And also, the reality is the martial arts from 1970 versus the martial arts from 2018. There's been more radical change in martial arts, the understanding of technique since 1993 to 2018 than there's ever been in the history of martial arts. And Bruce Lee was responsible for a big shift from 1970 to the UFC. It's very hard to find a single UFC fighter that wasn't a Bruce Lee fan or isn't currently a Bruce Lee fan, including me. And I think that what he did was introduce this open-minded approach to martial arts.
Right.
Taking what's useful from boxing, from wrestling. I mean, look, he Enter the Dragon, he's doing an arm bar. You know, he killed somebody, he killed Chuck Norris with a guillotine.
Arm bar.
It wasn't the best.
But I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, but he's doing weird stuff. He obviously wasn't a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
No.
You know,
ping pong
well, see, that's
player.
what we talked about. And what people got really mad at is they were saying he would cream anybody like in youth. Brock Lesnar. And so I said, well, hold on. He's 2 inches shorter and 25 pounds lighter than NotGay Jared.
Yeah.
And so we had NotGay Jared and the Bruce Lee pants just going, whoa! And people were furious. Like, oh, look. I'm like, he's 25 pounds heavier and 2 inches taller. That's an idea as to how small of a man this is.
Yeah.
It's just not dealing, like, doesn't mean that he didn't write a good Tao, didn't write a good book.
The book's great, but it's also plagiarized. He took passages in full without any accreditation at all and I don't want to say in a bad way because I think what he was trying to do was just like his whole style. He just took big chunks of books on boxing and other different martial arts and took verbatim passages from that. Maybe plagiarizing is not the right word because what he did was like a collection of martial arts technique. And so one of the things he did, see if you could find that.
The hat tip.
Yeah, he just forgot the hat tip.
Well, I mean, he wasn't an author, you know. What he was a martial artist, and he was collecting different, writings on different styles. See, Bruce Lee, the Tao, Tao of Jeet Kune Do, plagiarized passages. And again, I'm a giant Bruce Lee fan. I'm not shitting on him, I think it's also very important. I own the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. I think it's very important that he did collect these important works on different martial arts.
Sure.
And he was the first dude. When I first started out doing martial arts, when I was doing Taekwondo, you had to just do Taekwondo. When I branched out and started doing Muay Thai and started kickboxing, they were very against it. A lot of the traditionalists were very against it, very against trying out other techniques. They just didn't think it was necessary, and I was like, that is crazy. I've sparred with these guys. Getting kicked in the legs is fucking awful.
Right.
I'm gonna learn how to do this.
Yeah.
You guys, I'm not gonna not learn this. Somebody kicked my leg once. I was like, oh, okay.
That's what that feels like.
Okay, we got a new thing here.
Gotta change this.
I'm like, I gotta learn that. Same thing with jiu-jitsu. As soon as I did jiu-jitsu, I was like, I know how to fight. I got fucking raped. I mean, literally like ragdolled by some guy who was exactly the same size as me. Like, oh, okay. Now I got to learn this because there's no fucking way I can go through life thinking I know how to fight while this guy's out there. That guy was a purple belt too. He wasn't even like he wasn't bigger than me. He was like close to my age. He killed me.
And then you're a black belt, you're accomplished, and then you roll with someone, like I'm fortunate enough to have rolled with some good guys because I travel. And you'll be like, oh, okay, here's a black belt. This guy's kicking my ass. And then I rolled with the worst I've ever had in my life. Nice guy. So please don't mistake this, was Lucas Leche. He was not flow. Like, I've rolled with Marcelo Garcia. We've had Buchecha come in, Gabriel Vela, Cyborg, like all these different seminars.
Nice guys.
But Lucas Leche, I think, was just, like, if you're a bigger guy and you go and you roll with him, and he actually accidentally, he did a collar pull with his gi. It was so hard. I put my hand out to post, and I popped my shoulder out of the socket.
Oh, Jesus.
In the first 10 seconds. And so then he gets my back, and I was like able, but you can see, and the tape, I don't know if I still have it, I'm doing this,
trying
to pop my shoulder back in. And it was so fast. And I was like, oh, so that's what that's like. Because Marcelo was so nice. He was like, you can give more pressure, more pressure. He was like, because you never want to hurt the black belt. Even though there's no chance you could hurt him, but you're not going to beat him.
But you don't want to go aggro on him.
Yeah, because these guys, people want to take their head off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you don't want to be that. But Leche was just super nice, but popped my shoulder out in 12 seconds. Just
There's
posting.
a lot of guys that are like that. They roll hard or they don't roll at all, you know?
I don't even know that it was hard. I think it was so swift from,
Speed.
timer went off.
Right.
And it was the basic. He was sitting and he just grabbed the collar and just boom, just pulled. That's it.
Right.
And I guess you're kind of expecting maybe we'll go toreando, maybe we'll go leg drag, and no, boom, old school collar yank, and I just posted and felt done.
Did you find anything on Bruce Lee?
I started looking it up. It's a bunch of like forum posts and whatnot. I found one blog post that has like the annotated thing, and it sort of shows a quote from it and then says where the quote was from.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not like the best.
All right. Well, I hope I'm not wrong, because this is what somebody who I know and respect very well told me, and then I remember reading it somewhere. But again, it doesn't take anything away from how I feel about Bruce Lee. I think he's very important in the history of martial arts, maybe one of the most important figures ever outside of Hoist Gracie and Elio Gracie.
It's one of those things where the truth is enough, and you wonder why people feel like the truth isn't enough about Bruce.
Right.
Like, you don't need to embellish it. Like, the truth was...
Hero worship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That being said, it was a slightly racist caricature of you as Bruce Lee.
In hindsight, I can see how people might take it wrong.
Did you put tape on your eyes?
No, we did do that once, though, because we did him doing the Mickey Rooney breakfast at Tiffany's. And so people were like, this is so racist. We're like, he's literally just doing Mickey Rooney breakfast at Tiffany's. What do you think?
Mickey Rooney's a white guy. What the fuck's wrong with you?
You never saw that, though?
Oh, I have seen it.
Oh, my God.
It's so racist.
It's hilarious, though.
Yeah. Well, how about when they used to have the guy play Charlie Chan? He was the whitest motherfucker that's ever lived. He was playing like a 6'3" white guy playing a Chinese detective, and like they wouldn't let Chinese people act back then. Like if you were in a major role, like the star of a movie, you had to be a white guy.
Have you seen the new Spider-Man though?
Yeah.
No.
You kind of wonder if that's something we should.
I hate to. I mean, you say, can you ask questions? Can we address the elephant in the room? It's pretty clear that often Asians are not the best actors.
Oh, you son of a bitch!
Come on,
son of a bitch!
I don't care. I'll stand by it.
Yeah, well, you never watched any Asia Carrera's movies.
That's why back, in the 90s, they just said put Dean Cain in there, call it a day. He's
what
got
about
enough.
Lucy Tai? She did some great work.
It's
a porno star.
Oh, okay.
Son of a bitch.
See, now I don't know, who that's more embarrassing to.
Me or you?
Yeah.
Definitely you, because it doesn't bother me at all. It's only embarrassing if it embarrasses you.
Have you ever had Dean Cain on the show, by the way?
No, I'd love to have him on there.
Oh, my God. Have you ever watched his Princeton highlight? He set 3 All-American records.
Really?
Yeah, in football. He's only 5'11".
Ton of Princeton records.
Yeah, ton of Princeton records.
I
but
met
also in
him
the league.
once. I met him once at something. One of them
Super
functions.
smart dude.
He did something with Joey Diaz. He did a series. He did those movies, like The Dog Who Saves Christmas.
Oh, yeah, all the
My
Hallmark
kids
movies and
love
stuff.
those fucking movies. Yeah. Joey says he's a great guy.
He's
Super
a very nice
guy. Very smart.
Yeah.
Good looking to the point of being aggravating.
Uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Look at that fucking face.
Look at that.
Handsome. Look at him.
Look at his Princeton highlight. If you YouTube Dean Cain highlight,
Of course,
when he played football.
he's got an advantage in some of these photos.
He's
That is
probably
true.
being next to Joey. He's probably the only guy that played Superman that didn't get like something really wrong happen to him, right? There was like a Superman curse.
And
Like-
George Reeves and Christopher Reeves.
Christopher
and
Reeves,
maybe it's
George-
the Reeves.
What would
Or they went
what was the
wrong.
curse with Brandon
Maybe.
Routh? Just turned out to suck.
Who's
Yeah,
that
he just
guy?
turned out he
was the
stuck being Brandon Routh.
He was
When did
stuck
that
being Brandon
happen?
Routh. That was one with Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor. Remember that was a reboot?
No, I was gone by then. I left the franchise.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention.
Was it Henry Cavill now?
It's like when you get to the 3rd different Spider-Man. I'm out.
Yeah, I'm kind of done with superhero films now for a while, unless there's something really interesting.
Yeah.
I'll still go see anything with the Hulk.
Oh, really?
They haven't done one in a while.
I love
It's
when
been a
he
long time.
fucking freaks out. But now that Mark Ruffalo, who's like super social justice warrior, is the Hulk.
I can't do it. Usually I can separate the art from the artist, but I'm like, that's just that Bernie prick. I can't do this.
Well, he's also he's just like he's also a
aggressive.
conspiracy theorist too, which is weird.
Is
He's
he?
like a
Yeah.
socialist, and he's like a conspiracy. Like
Well,
I
Mark
think,
Ruffalo, I don't want to speak out of school, but I think he has a brain tumor.
now I
see if
just feel
that's
like a
true.
jerk.
See if that's true. I might be making
we just
things
laughed
up
at a
today.
man with a brain tumor. All
I
of
think
us.
Mark Ruffalo has brain cancer.
We've all got a lot of growing up to
Mark,
do.
I'm sorry, I love
This
you.
is going as well as your
I
interviews
hope
with Matt
this isn't
Eisman.
true. You know what?
Yeah, he talks about this is an article. He talks about his brother's murder and his brain tumor.
Oh, see, there you go. He's got a brain
You
tumor.
asshole.
So
No,
might
not
be-
me. I didn't know.
Son
You
of a
knew when you
bitch.
started it. You knew when you went there
Mark
anyway.
Ruffalo opens up about he's got a brain tumor. So maybe that's where the conspiracy theories are all coming from. What conspiracy theories?
I don't know. I remember him. He was somewhere, and it was like, I couldn't tell you. I wouldn't want to speak out of turn, but I remember being surprised because I knew he was far left, and it was
Right.
like kind of like Big Brother government. I'm like, oh, that's weird for you to think Big Brother's watching, but want a bigger Big Brother. All right.
Right. Yeah, that's the problem, right? They think
9/11 truther.
Oh, he's a
that was one of it.
truther.
Yeah.
Is that one of them?
Oh, Mark.
Marky Mark.
Yeah. It's another one of those things. It's like you look at it after the fact and you go, look at all these connections. Like, okay, maybe just chaos and two guys flew planes into, or a bunch of guys flew planes into buildings.
Well, the problem is I think they're capitalizing on what we were talking about, right? Which is real. No one wanted to cover the Antifa issue. No one wants to talk about the puberty blockers to kids and this being considered hate speech. It's true. There is a media cover-up of a lot of information. Certainly, I would say instead of a cover-up, there is a monopoly on informational distribution, right? That's
sure.
real.
That's
and
real.
People, when you find that out, it kind of opens your eyes. You're going, okay, what else don't I know? So people take that and then try and capitalize on it with lies. Which is, you didn't know Jay-Z's in the Illuminati, 9/11's an inside job, and it just goes on because there's some truth to it. But the problem is, you want to get people searching, but truth has to be at the
The same people
center.
who run your post office orchestrated the biggest terror attack on American soil.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think there was some taking advantage of the events in order to pass policy that wasn't passable before.
Like the
you could
Patriot Act, those kinds of things. Of course.
Yeah, the Patriot Act was drafted long before 9/11, and they pushed it through. And then there's a lot that I think you could attribute to them taking advantage of this tragedy. But the idea that they orchestrated it, man, that's just it doesn't jive.
The burden of proof is on them too to say that.
Well,
in my
they think
opinion.
they did. You see loose change. There's a lot of people that believe.
Yeah. What I find crazy about that is that, this crazy corrupt government, the 9/11 Commission report, okay, George Bush, like a Mark Ruffalo. But then you look at the drone strikes with Barack, it's like all of a sudden, where's code? All of this goes away?
Right.
There's one that's consistent. Now, I don't hate George Bush. I know I'm probably in the minority here. I don't think he was a great president. I don't think he's as bad as a lot of people, Green Day thinks he was. I don't think he was a great president. But the point is, I don't want George Bush to have unfettered power,
right?
Nor Barack Obama, nor Donald Trump. It's not selective.
Yeah.
I don't trust any of them.
Yeah, Mike Baker, who used to be in the CIA, told me that those drone strikes are designed, or rather dictated by lawyers. Like when what gets passed and what gets passed through, it's lawyers. Lawyers make the final decision. Yeah, I was like, really? He's like, yeah, it's lawyers. They decide, like, hey, you know what? How many people are in this building that are friendlies?
So a bunch of Jews nations decide who's living and dying over there.
Wait, what?
What? Son of a bitch.
No.
First it was Bruce Lee, now it's the Asians and the Jews together.
Well, you know, they do cooperate.
Statistically speaking.
Boys, I got to end this.
We got to end
unfortunately.
this.
It's a little bit past 12. I got to get out of here. Or a little bit past 4, rather. I got to get out of here.
Can I get out of
here?
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you. And listen, thanks for these videos you guys do. They're funny. They're informative. And I think especially that transgender one, that really freaked me out. I think a lot of stuff you guys do is very important.
Glad we could help.
And a lot of it is just ridiculous, but keep that up, too.
Well, that's what we do. Thanks, Joe.
All right, NotGay Jared on Twitter, and, of course, you're S. Crowder on Twitter, right? All right. Bye, everybody.
Thanks.